Take a seat, sir.
It looks like your garage.
Good to see you.
Strangely.
It could have been. Are you okay sitting there? Okay. Well, I did a few trial runs and stuff to see if, is it sink too deep, at the right height, and all of that stuff.
Because I'm really short. You gotta test run it for me.
I don't want to say it. Come on, Doug.
This is some sort of trap.
No,
I'm gonna sink into this chair and never be able to get out.
By the way, I never thought. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
I never thought heightist comedy was funny. It always. Oh, can you pull the mic towards your face, please?
Yes, I can.
Yeah, you're. However you want it to be.
Is it on?
It is on.
Okay.
And hopefully that light. Let me check it here before we. All right. If the light was blinking, how would you want it to be? Yes, let's see.
Yours is blinking too. Oh, there you go. Does it rotate?
Yeah, it doesn't have
No,
that
see,
degree
yours
of
is different than
freedom. I don't know.
You get the nice one.
Is it?
It's fine.
Okay.
It's fine.
Well,
You gotta let me know if I'm actually coming through.
you'll definitely come through because I've done a few trial runs and, I don't know, about a 9 to 12 inch gap or something like that.
That's good.
Yeah, what was I going to say? Oh, by the way, before we even get started, it's kind of cold here. Are you okay with it?
Yeah, I think I'm okay.
Okay, so I have a heated blanket. I'm a I'm a PUSSY.
I was just gonna say that. Can we say that?
You can have at it today, by the way. This is
You're gonna edit me, aren't you?
edit you and expose you to the Midwestern crowd. That's gonna. And by the way, are you familiar with the theme of what I'm trying to do here?
It's funny. I found myself wondering what the hell it was we were going to talk about. I was like, well, maybe I should text him. And I went back to the text string, and you must have added, or I didn't pay attention to the couple things you had sent afterwards.
It's not important.
It's something about the Midwest.
It's it's the essence of the Midwest.
Essence of the Midwest.
Is
There
the
we go.
banner, and I'm trying to.
Which is not going to get you thousands of YouTube viewers. It's really not.
It's all about the pleasure of the conversation, Doug.
Okay. Okay. Good. You're not relying on the advertising income. That's important.
No, if I go broke, it won't be because of this. It'll be because of other poor life choices.
Yes, it will.
Okay. You're okay without the? I think I'm getting kind of warm. I'll probably take it off in a little while. By the way, this is as you can have already surmised or have watched another. This is just a conversation. I'm trying to glean some things out of you to, I guess, get at the essence of the Midwest. Do you want to know why the essence of the Midwest?
Yeah. What the hell? Because you think you're going to be stuck here for the rest of your life, you may as well know what you're doing.
Oh, by the way, you have some drinks there too. Some Celsius, seltzer water. If you want to help yourself, please. Okay. Yeah. So, am I going to live here for the rest of my life? I've lived here for the rest of my life since I was 21. What are
you, like 25 now?
18.
Not those little kids. How old are you?
44.
God damn.
Yeah.
Time flies, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's half my life in the U.S. and half my life in India now. 22 is when I moved to Ohio, to like a
Dayton, right?
Dayton, Ohio, a third year school there, and been there. And then I came to Cat after that. Been with Cat, and then the rest is, we all know what happened. But anyway, coming back to your question, this is something that it always kind of like nagged at me over the years that, most people, at least my folks back in India, my friends, family, media, fill in the blank, the zeitgeist, the people, when people think of America, what do they think about, right?
Yeah.
And it's mostly New York and LA and everything else sensational about America.
Yes. They used to call the flyover country is what we are.
And it
Nobody
isn't.
knows the Midwest exists.
And it's such a tragedy that the notion exists,
Well, because honestly, it feels like the work ethic and work output comes out of the Midwest.
Indeed.
I wonder if, well, I guess people on the coast believe that they have their own.
They're better than everybody else.
Well, I think everybody in New York believes that they work harder than everybody else.
I went to San Francisco.
People in California just think they're smarter than everybody else.
Yeah, I went to San Francisco in 2021. I might have told you this. Maybe not. I was telling somebody else. I stayed with an Indian American family, and riding around. They were showing us around town and stuff like that. And I could not believe the amount of condescension they had towards the Midwest. I don't think they knew I was from like a small tier 2 town. They thought I was from Chicago, because that's how it gets. My sister's introducing me to somebody that she won't say Peoria.
Because nobody knows where it is.
Or there's a prestige issue there, right? You're not, well, Peoria? What? Who? And so anyway, I'm right.
That's an Indian thing. You're all worried about the prestige portion of it.
It is very prestige oriented. In India, it's like my parents will absolutely tell people I'm in Chicago, and then I have to clarify with them, like, oh, where in Chicago? My such and such lives here, or whatever. And I'm like, no, it's 120 miles south of Chicago. It's a small, and I have to really break it down because
you tell the people in Chicago was a far south suburb, and they wouldn't know any difference.
Yeah, because they don't just care about anything other than yeah. Anyway, so they were condescension to the power of 10, like. And, like stupid, naive me, I was trying to bat for the Midwest. Like, I've spent 20 years at this point in the Midwest, and I met some amazing people. And these people have selflessly guided me and mentored me and helped me through the years. And I have nothing but gratitude. And here these people, I mean, oh, he's from Ohio. Okay, let's roll our eyes. Like, that's expected. Something racist or something happened, It's like, that's it. They just box you like that. And I did that about 4 or 5 times, I remember. And I came back and I'm thinking, like, what a pathetic guy I am. Like, I'm trying to change, like, people's minds in the West Coast about the Midwest. And, like who am I to say? I mean, I'm not going to change their minds, but just telling them something, and it's like, it's not going to happen like that.
But the only way they change their minds is if they meet people, well, they probably work
or no history. Like, isn't the Midwest, at least the early part of the 20th century, was like the hotbed of industrialization?
I don't give a rat's ass about the history.
No, because I'm just saying this is not like a place filled with like slouches. Like, these are extremely, like, go get, like, the Wright brothers and Ford Motor Company, and
that was way back when you just had to be moderately intelligent.
Edison, and come on, really? You're not helping me here, Doug. Yeah, so anyway, all these amazing innovations. I mean, like, I when I found out the U of I was where they invented the CD, I was like, that's amazing. Like, what an underappreciated, sort of thing. Like, anyway.
You're absolutely right. I mean, between New York and California, they just really believe that they have the world lined up in those two corridors.
And when I argue with people online or in person or whatever, and they just kind of strawman you, like, USA, oh yeah, the homeless people, that's it, right? And I'm like, okay, I'm going to take it upon my shoulders to change certain opinions, at least my circles, if I can, by showcasing some fantastic individuals that I've crossed paths with, and
That's our Rajiv tilting at windmills till the bitter end.
I didn't get the reference. What is that? Can you break it down for me?
Tilting at windmills is
Tilting Windmills.
Don Quixote.
Okay.
God, that's a really old novel in some crazy ass Spanish. Is jousting with windmills because he thinks they're evil.
Is this? I've heard of Don Quixote.
Yeah,
is he a fictional character or is he an author?
It's fictional character.
Okay.
Yeah, Cervantes is the author.
Sorry, but by the way, I realized we have that little mic just blocking our clips. Rookie mistakes in our garage.
Yeah. Is that better? See if we get it right.
I'll fix it for my next podcast. We'll have a follow-up, Doug. We'll have another 7-hour follow-up podcast if you're willing. Anyway.
Tilting at windmills is code for going after hopeless endeavors because they're the right thing to do.
Yeah.
Idealist. That's the word.
Yeah. I'm definitely an idealist. I would think of myself as that. So anyway, I had my mother-in-law we had the podcast right here, actually. She's a amazing musician. She still sings in a few bands.
Oh, that's the woman who's on the website.
Yeah,
okay.
That's her, Carol Jean, yes. Just sheer luck that my mother-in-law happened to be this amazing, well-respected artist in the Midwest, bluegrass country, right. And anyway, so she was here. So she was the first guest. And then, of course, we have you, and then talking to a couple other people, we'll see.
Who am I lining up against?
I really wanted Steve Buddy on this,
because he is sort of he is a Midwestern prototype.
Absolutely. And and I was thinking actually it could be a 3-way between you, me, and Steve. Maybe we could do a follow-up like that or something. But I was thinking I actually ran into Steve in Menards one time, and
Wendell Stahl too, by the way.
Wendell Stahl, like a Midwestern prototype kind of. Yeah. I haven't talked to Wendell as much as I would have liked, but anyway, so Steve and me at Menards, we chatted for at least an hour. We burned through an hour. And Steve is such an interesting cat to me. It's just he's got a lot of real common sense, and he just takes things slower than people, and
slow and careful and methodical.
Yes.
And, yes.
Yes. So it would be him. I'm also talking to this one gentleman who's a musician, who's a songwriter and a birder, I guess. Do you know what a birder is? What is a birder?
Bird watching.
That's
what I think.
Oh, okay.
You're talking about?
Okay, so birder is bird watching. All right. So anyway, you're up against these people.
You can also be hunting birds, but
okay.
Probably less likely.
Okay. Did you ever get a chance to look at that Exploring Conversations clip I sent you by any chance?
No, I didn't.
Okay. No worries. That's the other project I'm working on. It's a little plug for that, but that is a little more controversial. I spent the last, day and a half brooding over it because me and this guy, Wajahat is his name, is a Pakistani guy, and as you know...
Oh, okay. I read the title of it.
Okay.
I didn't listen to the podcast.
As you know, we've had a little bit of a history there between India and Pakistan.
Really? And you needed a Turk and a Greek together on the same podcast.
A what and Greek?
A Turk.
A Turk. What is a Turk?
Turkey.
Uh-huh.
The Turks all hate the Greeks.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. It's the same.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So they're always at odds with each other.
Yes. Yeah.
Because of historical bad blood or whatever. Okay. See, you're such a treasure trove of these little anecdotes. It's I love chatting with you. You just have this thing and that thing, and then you just catch me. You run circles around me like this. I'm like, what are you saying? What are you? And you're also the other thing about this, Doug Koehler, who I'm interviewing here, who's me my boss. He is a I don't know what do you call it, like a fountainhead of, I don't know, euphemisms and little funny sayings and things like that. I always think of
nobody knows what the hell I'm ever saying.
Yeah. How? By the way, can we get into that? How did you develop that kind of knack or I don't know what it is. You can recall like that. Like I remember, like give you an example. You said sheep dip at some point.
Yeah.
Like what the hell is sheep dip? And it perfectly summarized certain corporate tactics. And it's like, by the way, we can edit parts out which you feel uncomfortable with. I know you've lived the corporate life for very long. Anyway, coming back. So, can you walk me through how?
How does that happen? Oh, well, it's just every time I have ever come across those, I also have the same question about where the hell did that ever come from? Mm-hmm. And that's the wonderful thing about the internet, right? Is you can look up the source of all those.
What are you looking up? Where you're looking up euphemisms like randomly, or you're reading books, articles?
The ones that I've heard, you look up when you want to know where they came from, and that probably cements it in my head.
But you know some really, really kind of esoteric kind of 99 out of 100 people would not know this thing. Like, I'll tell you another word I really learned because of you. Bequeathed.
Well, so I will tell you this, is that the high school that I went to was, and the English teacher I had was just super into vocabulary.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, we would have 50 new spelling words every week, and we would have to define them all.
But
so you'd have developed a really good vocabulary that way. But
you'd also have to have the interest in order to apply that word. Learning is one thing.
Yeah. I don't know.
This is a smart bloke, Doug.
That's me.
By the way, you grew up in Kentucky.
Louisville.
What was the name of the town?
Louisville.
Okay, Louisville is a big kind of city or town, or.
And it's either Louisville,
or
Louisville, or Louisville.
As an Indian, I would say Louisville. I can't even say my W's properly, but Louisville. Okay, that's where you grew up. That's a pretty cosmopolitan kind of big size town.
Yeah, I mean it's like 500,000-600,000 now.
Okay.
So I mean it's certainly a lot bigger than Peoria is, but it's not big town stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, you sort of debate whether that's Midwestern or whether that's South. It really kind of depends who you ask, right?
And at what age did you move to the Midwest?
Well, so we came to work at Caterpillar when I was 27.
And prior to that?
Was in Dallas-Fort Worth and Dallas-Fort Worth in St. Louis, actually.
Okay. This is something I want to ask you. You did work for military, I guess, companies, military.
Yeah, Lockheed. Well, it started off as General Dynamics in Fort Worth, Texas.
Okay.
They turned into Lockheed and worked on a classified Navy attack plane for a while, and then on the F-22, which actually at least people have heard of.
And what got you into these, or Lockheed rather?
What got me there?
Was it patriotism? Was it just a job? Was it?
They were the highest bidder when I got out of college.
Cool.
Well, and it was, I went to grad school to do controls, right?
Okay.
They were promising controls work. And it was fun. It really was fun.
And I always wanted to ask somebody who's worked in the military engineering space this, how different or how similar is the corporate work culture?
So the big company thing is universal.
Oh, it is.
Yes. I mean, there are small differences just in terms of, I mean, the engineering side of it's different, right? Because an aircraft, nobody cares what anything weighs. Well, I'm sorry. They care more about what it weighs than what it costs.
That's going to drive a lot of different decisions.
Absolutely. Engineering decisions, but not corporate decisions.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's a big company. You have the same sort of inner office.
Yeah, politics.
That goes on everywhere. Honestly, it just seemed to me that whenever you have people working together closely, I mean, there are people that some are assholes.
Right. Yeah. Okay, so you worked there, and then you moved to Caterpillar when you were 27.
Yeah. Just because a headhunter called me. And my wife, we were in Texas at the time.
Okay.
She was a Louisville native. I don't think she ever really liked being that far from home.
Okay.
And
I mean, Peoria is not that close either.
It's a shit ton closer than Texas is.
It is?
Yeah.
Do you guys go back there often?
Yeah, I mean, it's a 5-hour drive.
Okay. Okay.
She probably goes 4 or 5 times a year, and I go 2 or 3.
And how did you guys meet, if you don't mind me asking?
Where did we meet? In a bar in Louisville.
Classic. If you want to meet quality women, go to a bar.
Yeah.
Doug's advice. But another question for you. You've got a vanity license plate that says I'm Doug.
Yes.
Right? When I saw that vanity license, I usually cringe at vanity license plate. Okay, just be honest with you. But that one I didn't cringe on because I felt like that captures your essence in a sense. Because you're this kind of like, rascally kind of character, right? Is that okay to say rascally?
You can say rascally. I don't view myself as particularly rascally, but whatever.
No, in a very endearing way. I love it. You would make jokes at people. You don't take things too seriously in life.
I would agree with that.
And by the way, how did you develop that sort of sensibility?
Oh, part of it's being atheist, I'm sure.
That will be beeped out.
Because it's the Midwest.
Yes. I will lose all my audience, all 3 of them.
No, I mean, it's...
No, I take things too seriously sometimes. And, I try to develop that, it's like, let me not take myself too seriously, or let's try to just lighten it up and things like that. And for me, it's a constant work in progress. I have to push back against, God, everything is just this heavy thing. And then here you are, it's like you're laughing half the time or more than that.
But that's all just, I don't know where that sort of personality stuff comes from, right? I mean, I think it's...
Were you always like that then, as a kid too, as a teen? And
yeah,
okay,
I think.
Okay. It's a learnable trait too, though, right?
Yeah. Everything is learnable.
Mm-hmm.
Your base is different.
Yeah. My base is very, very serious.
And idealistic.
Yeah, that too. Yeah, I would say so.
Which makes you want to take everything very seriously.
That's true. That's a very good point. I didn't think of it that way. Yeah, maybe I should become a non-idealist. I should just start like, hey, let things be as they are. I mean, in all seriousness, I feel like this is I don't know, maybe it's a fallacy. Maybe you could tell me otherwise. I feel like if you're not an idealist, it's a slippery slope at that point. And you have to sort of maintain that hard line of idealism, so then you're not letting your standards kind of drop.
Well, But I mean, all that comes back to what is the, getting deep on, what is truth, right? I mean, if you want to be ideal, or you want to be an idealist, you have to know what that ultimate
Ideal state is.
And I'm not sure I've ever been smart enough to figure out what that is.
But we all know what makes us collectively happy.
No.
Happier.
Well,
You won't be happy if I put your arm on a stove, right?
that's too simple.
Okay. I stole that metaphor from this one guy I really like, by the way, on Sam Harris. Talk about him all the time. But we can all calibrate ourselves to what is awful, right?
I come down to something as simple as like freedom, right? There are all kinds of people just doing all kinds of crazy things because they think their freedoms are being impinged. And I look at a lot of what they're arguing about and think, I don't care if somebody tells me to wear a mask when I'm in Kroger's. I don't feel like that's infringing on my freedom.
Okay, I see a point. So there's all varying...
So are you willing to fight for your ability not to wear a mask?
That would be, to me, it would be a simplistic example again. As you accuse me of cherry picking a simplistic example. No, here's what I would say, okay? It's say, okay, if there's trash on the street when you're walking, that is just bad for everybody. We can all agree that is suboptimal for everybody.
Yes, I would agree with that.
Okay. So
those are things that are easy to be idealistic about.
Yeah, but then when you kind of peel the layers back, there's a lot of other behaviors that lead to that kind of trashy street. And you'd have to sort of think about those things. Like, people don't take hygiene seriously. Okay, why don't they do that? Because there's a cultural angle to this. And blah, 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 blah. And then you tend to take your idealism back, I don't know, into those layers as well.
Well, and maybe it's just that everybody has a handful of things that they believe are very important.
Yeah.
And are willing to be idealistic about.
Yeah.
Maybe I just have fewer of those.
Oh, God. No, I just admire that about you. And I sometimes I have to think about, like, what would Doug do?
Yeah.
WWDO or DD. At least subconsciously, and think to myself, like, yeah, don't worry about it so much. Just relax. It's okay. Don't try to control things so much. And it's not even like me trying to control. It's just that I have this expectation that, why is this not this way? And just get mad, things like that.
Well, it's real easy to get mad these days, isn't it? You got lots of people feeding it to you.
Yeah, indeed. So anyway, so you came to Caterpillar.
Yes.
What was your first gig?
First gig was hydraulics research.
Okay.
And, well, it was systems and controls. And mostly geared towards hydraulics, which is exactly what I was doing at Lockheed.
Okay.
So it was just a perfect fit.
Okay.
And I'll say the biggest difference between the two places is just the scope of it, right? Airplane programs are like 3,000 or 4,000 people all working on the same plane.
Oh.
And Caterpillar is, how big a program is. Probably all in is like maybe 50 people working on a particular machine program.
And why is that? Why is that scale so different?
Because the aircraft programs are $20 billion programs.
Oh, so they need more engineers to look at it, work at it, and be
and just really highly engineered.
Okay.
I mean, it's like, you would get the same answer talking to somebody at Boeing, right?
Okay.
Those programs are huge because, flight is difficult. And
safety critical. And
safety critical, weight matters, performance matters.
Okay.
Like we were doing frequency responses on our actuators, right, to see how quickly they could move a control surface, right? And we just don't do that sort of
Right.
at CAT.
Right.
You push a handle and the cylinder moves out there eventually.
That's good
For the
enough.
most part, it's good enough.
Okay. See, that's fascinating to me that there's that like a 20x, maybe more than that, like a difference in the, when you say highly engineered, it's almost like you're looking, every little part of your plane has got like a group of engineers working at it, making sure everything fits properly, the weight is proper, the weight distribution is proper.
Yeah, I mean, we probably had 100 people just working on the flight control actuators.
Wow. And it's just to be clear, a flight control actuator is one cylinder moving one, or not one cylinder, but cylinders moving
A control surface.
a control surface. And these are solenoids that are controlling the pilot valve, and then the same principles of Caterpillar, but except in a more
Much more high
High
performance
tolerance,
and
yeah.
safety critical way. It's actually kind of fun in that each one of our solenoids, they were actually little force motors, but solenoids,
okay,
had three coils all acting on one plunger. Those three coils are controlled by three separate computers,
okay,
all running
redundancy.
the same control algorithm, and they vote on their output
Wow.
before they send it out. Every one of the flight control surfaces has two separate hydraulic systems that's running it, and they're run by two separate engines, and right, it's just very, very convoluted.
And highly redundant systems.
Yeah,
Yeah. Did you ever get to ride in one of those planes ever?
it's not.
I mean, it's a fair question.
They would. Lockheed would raffle off like one or two a year.
Okay.
They would do
Yeah.
joy rides on an F-16.
Yeah.
But and that's the thing too, right? Is that a flight hour in a F-16 is thousands of dollars.
Right.
It's not like going out to the proving grounds and you're just paying for a little bit of fuel.
Did you ever miss working at Lockheed after you moved?
It was just different, honestly. Well, I feel like I probably wouldn't have had the same opportunities I had with Caterpillar. I showed up here right as Caterpillar was taking off. Yeah.
You mean Cat Electronics was taken off?
Well, Cat Electronics and Caterpillar in general, they just come. I got here in '93. I think '88 was like their absolute bottom. Like
Oh, okay.
there was like a month in '88 when they like didn't sell a machine.
Really? I never knew that.
Yeah,
Holy cow.
and they were.
It had gotten
just-
that horrible? Like,
Oh yeah, it was really bad there for a while.
not a machine for a month. That's a big deal. Oh, God. I didn't know we had reached that kind of a bottom. That is truly a bottom.
But and maybe that was some submodel, or maybe it's just a tractor or something. I remember that factoid from one of the guys when I
Gosh. Yeah, yeah. I had heard that somewhere in the 80s we had a trough moment for
Yeah.
a year or a few years or whatever. I don't know, was that bad?
came in. And that was on that first hiring spree
Okay.
after that. Because I showed up at the tech center and the lady at HR looked at me like I had two heads.
What does it mean?
It's like,
Why do you
she had
wanna
no
come
idea
here?
What to do when a new employee came in.
Oh. Because they had really stopped hiring for a long time. They were just, yeah. Okay.
Well, right, and by the time you're hiring headhunters to go out and get people, right, that says you're trying
Yeah.
to do things quickly.
Yeah. So what turned around Cat at that point? Do you remember?
Why did they start picking up again?
Yeah. What changed?
I honestly don't know.
It's okay. Just curious. So what was the, like, I'm curious about that then. What was the kind of energy at that point when you joined CAT? Like, was it like a lot of excitement?
Well, see, that's what's weird, right? Is that, well, so, well, that's the other thing. I got here in November, and they were all gearing up for a big strike.
Okay.
Just
the engineers?
Yes.
They used to strike?
No, not the engineers. The
factory folks. Okay.
Were going out on strike.
Okay.
And so in must have been like March, April, the contract came due. They declined the contract and they went out on strike shortly thereafter. And all the engineers ended up in the factory like they do here.
Okay.
And I bolted heat shields onto exhaust manifolds every 60 seconds for the next 4 months.
Okay.
This close to booting out of here.
And how many days a week would you do that thing, bolting on things?
It was 6 days a week.
Holy cow. How many hours a day?
We started on 10s, and eventually, towards the end, we were just back down to 8-hour shifts.
And you just did this repetitive,
mindless crap work. Yeah.
For how long? How many months do you remember?
Like I said, I was out there for 4 months.
Gosh.
My experience, when I was at Lockheed, they went on strike at one point in time. And my experience there was that they just shut the line down. Because there was no expectation that the engineers were going to go out there and do that work.
Yeah.
Caterpillar had a completely different philosophy on all this.
Yeah. That's something I wanted to ask you. Is that common practice in America? Have you seen other companies do something like that?
I don't think anybody else does that. Maybe I'm just naive, but, well, it'd be an interesting...
Yeah.
Because I can't imagine the automakers are trying to do that.
Yeah, I always had this curiosity that as an engineer, you have a certain set of skills, and then as a line guy, assembly line guy, it's a different set of skills, different kind of endurance and all of that stuff. I guess some things can be taught. I guess you just kind of go there and you just learn and...
Oh, Jesus. When I saw what we did for the first couple weeks there, I wouldn't have bought a Caterpillar machine off of that line for all the money in the world. We fucked up so many things.
Really?
Right, because you don't know what you're doing. I mean, presumably it's all on a print somewhere, but you don't have time to consult the print for your 60 seconds with the machine. Yeah.
Gosh. So you came into a strike situation. You worked. You put in the hours, and you were ready. And then they eventually kind of, I guess, agreed upon some deal. And then you got back to. Was that the first time you went into the office at CAT?
Well, like I said, I was there for 4 or 5 months before that. But
okay. And so, how was the energy? I guess I'm really curious. Like, I've experienced the reason why I'm kind of poking at that.
Yeah.
In 2005, when I came into CAD, it seemed like that there was that kind of like an energy and excitement because they were hiring people, and it lasted all the way till 2008 or something like that. It was nice to see that.
Well, like I said, when I came in, they were on an upswing, so I think everybody was really excited.
Yeah.
All the budgets were expanding.
Right.
I mean, electronics was a great place to be, right, because that was actually probably even before controls was commonplace on things. So
yeah, CAT was kind of a pioneer in that, right? In a sense.
Well, depends what you think.
I mean,
I mean, when I look at what Lockheed was doing versus what Caterpillar was doing,
I meant
age at Caterpillar.
Sure, I meant like heavy equipment wise.
Yeah.
From what I've heard from people talking and stuff, for the first time the atom control and all of those things that they brought out, the industry was mostly in the pilot hydraulic space, or most of the industry
That's
was.
right. And so I was in research, right? And so it was just the perfect place to be because we were pushing all out that crap out the door.
Yeah. And so, anyway, so how was your Peoria? Can you speak a little bit about Peoria? What? I know you were in Joliet, right?
Well, so I came here, worked for 3 years in research, and what I was working on in research was IMV. And so by the time that first 3-year assignment was up, Joliet was ready to start working on a production version of that. And so I went up there to do that.
IMV meaning some new tech, new age at that point. New technology to control, to be more efficient, I guess.
It was a new type of valve. And for those who don't have any background in hydraulics won't understand it at all, but that's...
I have a feeling guys like Brett and Fuad are going to rip us a new one out of me. Hello, you guys. If you ever watch this, have at it.
Yes.
But you moved to Peoria. What was the impression of Peoria back in the day? We're talking early 90s, Peoria?
Yeah. It's funny. When I came in for the interview, John Crone, I don't know if you ever knew him, he was my host.
Okay.
And he picks me up at the airport, takes me around the loop road.
Yeah.
Right. And
loop around Peoria?
Yeah. Contrast that to when I came in with my wife later to look for a house. We came in at the airport, saw that the most direct route into town was up Adams Street.
Okay.
And so went up through downtown.
The worst parts of
the south end of Peoria.
Which is, was it still bad at that point?
It was horrific at that point in time. Yeah.
It still is, by the way, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, so John just completely avoided all the shit areas of the city.
Yeah. I remember one time our mutual friend Jeff Lenz, he was telling me he went to the ERD program. And by the way, I love you, Caterpillar. This is nothing against. He showed me this book they handed out to all the ERDs, like this kind of welcome book. And then he said, things to do in Peoria. And then we went alphabetical order, and A for Applebee's. And he's like, thanks for sweeping me off my feet.
A is for Applebee's.
Wow, I should move here.
And we can't even keep the Applebee's open.
My fellow Peorians, this is this is a venting session.
Yes.
I mean, first question you ask, are you going to be a Midwestern for the rest of my... In spirit, I will be. I absolutely will be. I mean, I have so much respect, Doug, for this town, for this area of the country. It's not, to me personally, it's nothing that I could just kind of gloss over. Like my sister lives in Texas, or I go to the East Coast or West Coast, friends and stuff. It's a different vibe out there. And like, I'll give you a quick example. When I came into grad school in 2001, green as can be, I did my undergrad in India. And this guy who worked at the Air Force, Wright-Patterson Air Force Base at Dayton, Ohio, second largest base in the USA. He was an independent contractor. He would work on control systems and stuff. And I mean, he literally took me under his wing for 2.5 years and kind of showed me the ropes of engineering and how do you do things, and helped me out in my master's thesis and formulating what it is. And I'm thinking, this guy is in his mid-40s. He's got a career to work on, and he's burning daylight with me on a Tuesday afternoon. It's like, what are the odds? And I tell people this kind of intriguing story in my life. Like, why would, his name was John, and like, John Anderson, and love you, John. And what motivation did this guy have to do that? And some people tell me, well, you don't know what he was getting out of it. You can't downplay that stuff and stuff. But still, it's like it took a person taking an interest in me and helping me through it. And there was some mutual benefit too, because I was teaching him something else, how to use MATLAB and stuff like that. But he was just trying to upgrade his skills. But, it took me like a day and a half to do that because he was a smart guy. But anyway, that one example in and of itself, like, and I've got numerous like that. It's a very kind of like a kind spirit, I would say.
Although I don't know what that experience is like working at companies on the coast.
On the coast?
Yeah.
I was going to say, even when I came into a Caterpillar, right? I had so many mentors just giving away their knowledge for free. I would just go ask them for mentorship.
But that's been my experience in every working assignment I ever had, was that for people are herd animals, right? We all want everybody to be successful, particularly when you're working for a company. You want the company to be successful. And there are...
I grew up around people who just wanted to tear me down. Tear each other down. What are you talking about? No,
there are a handful of those.
But let me phrase it differently. When I was in college, when I was in like undergrad, it was almost like par for the course that almost every teacher that came into class would tear you down in the hopes that you would feel shame for yourself. It was not like let me build you up. Like, if you have the enthusiasm, let me help you through it. It was more like, let me tear you down. Let me destroy your self-esteem.
3 cheers for the Indian educational system.
Yeah, and I remember a math teacher in my second year of engineering. I remember he would say, "You guys none of you would ever mount to anything." And we were 65 or 70 people in this class. I mean, he's just chewing us all out because we were just talkative or something. We deserved it too, but as a teacher with that kind of a responsibility on impressionable minds, are you kidding me?
It is hard to imagine that.
Okay. I like to draw that contrast because that is the essence of, to me, not only the Midwest, but the American spirit is that, I mean, I'm married to an American and I experience this in close quarters. Yeah. And I'll talk to my wife or my father-in-law, mother-in-law and stuff like that. And it's like, it always seemed like there is a spirit of like, let's help each other out. Let's not be mean to each other. And let's not tear each other. Of course, there are assholes out there. Of course, I'm not denying that. But there seems to be a higher proportion of people who, like me and the Pakistani friend I was telling you about, we were both like talking to each other. By the way, I know I'm talking a lot, so you could.
No.
He grew up in Pakistan, and about my contemporaries, kind of had the same kind of experiences and stuff. And so we were talking about like, you come to the Midwest, you'll see the guy from the lowest income class of society, okay? Like just a guy doing labor work. I shouldn't say just, but a guy who's doing labor work and who lives probably in just extremely poor, from a poor, neighborhood or whatever. But the politeness, he'll say, please, thank you, and I'm sorry, as much as anybody else.
For the most part, yeah.
That blows my mind. That blows our collective minds in a sense that there is no class like difference in that aspect. People generally, there's a human dignity, there's a respect and all of that stuff. I know I'm romanticizing a lot of it.
Well,
but
and it's hard to, because I grew up here, right?
Right.
You've
been to Chennai though.
Yes, but you don't know what it's like to be
yes,
a Chinese citizen. Right.
Yes.
You're not in the local culture.
Yes. You're
just a tourist.
It's very much. Now that you mention that, I would say it's a very like desirable trait of a culture or society. I would say.
Well, and we're optimists.
You guys that's fantastic.
Yeah, it is.
Please be optimists. Please continue being the optimists that you are.
Well, it's the American exceptionalism thing.
What is American exceptionalism? Can you explain to the common man what is?
Oh God, I view it mostly as a Seems to be a conservative idea that somehow or another Americans are the sole world power because we're inherently superior.
Inherently,
yes. Our
Bestowed
culture is
upon.
inherently superior.
There's a lot of reason to think that too. I mean,
Well, and that's the
yeah,
thing. I mean, there are some things about U.S. culture that make it a great place.
yeah,
And part of it, right, is having a 200-year history as a democracy.
yeah,
Right, we just assume that that's the way things
Right.
work.
right,
Right, and so there's not an assumption that you're paying bribes to anybody here.
right,
Right, that doesn't even cross 99% of people's mind here. Right?
Thank
I would
God.
never think of offering a cop a bribe to get out of a ticket,
Thank God for that. I mean,
or paying somebody at City Hall to get something done.
Yeah.
Just wouldn't even think of it.
I had to pay. This is really sad. My dad had to pay. My grandma passed away last year, and he had to pay a bribe to the clerk who had made a mistake on the date she passed away. Moral bankruptcy 101. I mean, like,
Yeah.
really?
So we have that benefit of a nice rule-based thought process
Yeah.
that I don't think exists in a lot of other countries.
And it was taught to you, like, not only taught to you, like, your parents probably modeled it,
Yeah.
for one. But then when you went out to the broader society, broader world, whatever institutions you're a part of or regular store or whatever, that's how people behaved. And there was a way of behaving in society that was expected of you.
Yeah, well, it means that you don't have to worry about all that shit, right? And that
Yes, it makes sense.
it just makes everything much
Easier.
more efficient.
Yes.
Right? Good ideas get pursued because they're good ideas, not because somebody's paying a bribe.
Right. Not because it comes from somebody, just it stands on its own merits.
Yeah.
And that's it.
And again, that there's variation on that too. But
Yeah.
at least that part of it, we don't worry about corruption here.
Speaking of American exceptionalism, you've probably watched Team America: World Police.
It's been a while, but yes, that is a great movie.
That's one thing about Americans I love. By the way, this is getting into a different. It's okay.
Kim Jong-il. Oh, that poor son of a bitch just got roasted in that film. You just know that he's
Don't
trying
you know
to...
how fucking busy I am?
Oh, puppets having sex.
Oh, I love. It's like I've watched it at
Was
least.
it the house cat that's like doubling as a jaguar or something?
Oh gosh. That's I love about Americans is they have a sense of humor about themselves. It's like they're never too proud to laugh at themselves. Like, I would gladly take that lesson from the American playbook. Like, please laugh at ourselves. Like, because you could go too far with things, and it's like they don't. I mean, it's like in that movie they go after Hollywood. The entire Hollywood establishment, like
Yes.
FAG, remember that, the Film Actors Guild?
I don't remember that piece.
Yeah, it was FAG in the front, and Matt Damon giving a speech, and everybody's giving this kind of platitude-filled speech, and it's like it's fantastic. Like, and it still holds true to this day, like 19 years later or something.
I bet they didn't get any awards for that.
Oh yeah, of course it's not. Yeah. But everybody laughs at their private homes, and it's like, ha ha.
Where the hell were we going with that?
Gosh, no, we were talking about American exceptionalism.
Okay, there we go.
And how did we? Some people might look at this podcast or whatever and think this is my tribute to America, and it is. It's like that's one of the reasons why I'm doing this. The essence of the Midwest.
Yeah.
It's like good ideas, like you said, good ideas should stand on its own merit, and we should we shouldn't just dismiss something because it comes from here or there.
Yeah, the whole caste thing.
Oh God.
Just as an American, you just don't understand that.
So
concept at all.
anti-American. Yeah.
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 I mean, even the poorest American believes that they can do, right, that they can do anything.
Yeah.
It could be anything.
Yeah, it was one of, I really like this quote somebody was saying, they put the line in, all men are created equal in the US Constitution. It is a ticking time bomb under the racist butts, basically.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's fantastic. I think everybody should do that. Every country should do that. We should absolutely, I mean, like I've talked to you about, by the way, those jokes about, we had child labor in my house. And how we had this person who was not even 10 years old sitting on the floor and things like that. I still chuckle to myself about, and I bring it up in certain conversations because it's relevant. We wouldn't have to endure that kind of shame if we had that, that is an ideal. That is an American ideal.
Yeah, I would agree with that. That is, brings me back to the, I don't know if you remember, me and Anita
Oh God, I hope she doesn't watch us.
did this.
It's him, not me.
We did this thing at Cat Electronics that was sort of talking about the stereotypes in American and Indian culture and how they can either hurt or help you in your career.
Yeah.
And I remember putting that all together and just...
Putting what together?
Right, I was putting my material together.
Okay.
Right? I mean, Anita was obviously doing the Indian side and I was doing the U.S. side.
Wait, so you had to assemble or put together the stereotypes?
Yes.
For some sort of sensitivity training or something?
Well, it was like...
I hope it was.
Asian American, what was the resource group?
CIAC or something like that. Yeah, CAIC. Yeah.
We did this presentation to an auditorium full of people.
Yeah.
Mostly Indians.
You're lecturing people about stereotypes.
Yes. And you find yourself just doing a lot of soul searching about, well, what the hell is a stereotypical American?
Yeah.
And how real is any of those stereotypes, or is it all just everybody's the same?
Yeah,
because
there's definitely a white...
would like to say, everybody is the same. But the reality is there are some cultural differences between societies that can either play well with the majority or can play very poorly with the majority.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely think that, I mean, there's one of the jokes that my buddies and me have is there's definitely a middle-aged white guy stereotype for sure. Middle class white guy stereotype. I
remember right. Clearly,
do you remember what stereotypes? By the way, what did you guys end up?
I mean, the Indian stereotypes I found particularly interesting. Right?
Can you tell me what they are?
Well, one of the ones I remember is that Indians don't have the same sort of concept of time.
Yeah.
Of course, this is coming from Anita. So,
yeah.
Right. It's the time is more fluid. Right. If I tell you that something's going to be ready tomorrow, it may or may not be ready tomorrow.
Yeah.
And my point was, you tell American that you're going to meet a deadline.
Yeah.
You damn well better meet a deadline. That's a contract.
As goes with any other time contract. Like you said, you're going to be here at 1. You will show up at 1.
Yeah.
It's a very underrated, I feel like an underrated aspect of American life is that no matter who it is, no matter, almost 9 out of 10 times, if somebody says they're going to be here at time X, they're going to be there at time X. And if they're running late, they'll send you a text or something.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. I mean, I've gotten so used to it. And it definitely gets under your skin when you go, anyway, interacting with a culture that doesn't value that so much.
Well, and it's probably the root of half the issues that we ever had working with Cat India, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I was reading recently Bjorn Borg. Have you heard of that name?
Oh, yeah.
The tennis player. So he was, there was a felicitation thing for him in Bangalore, India. He was supposed to be felicitated by the chief minister of our state, Karnataka.
Felicitated.
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 Okay.
You
Haven't heard that word in quite some time.
felicitated. That's a very, very common thing they do in India. They'll put this shawl around you, and they put a little like turban thing on your head.
Yeah.
Don't roll your eyes, please.
They
Cultural.
presented them with flowers too, didn't they?
Sometimes,
Yeah.
sometimes a garland or something. They did that to my father-in-law and mother-in-law. They felicitated them. Anyway, so Bjorn Borg was in Bangalore, India for...
I think eventually they would figure out that just makes all the Westerners uncomfortable.
Why?
Because we don't do that in the West.
Let me play devil's advocate, but wouldn't you like to be honored, like symbolically honored?
You would like to be symbolically honored in the way that you're accustomed to.
Which is?
Just say a couple nice words.
That's all it takes? Hey, you're wonderful. You're wonderful. I mean, thank you for being who you are.
Yeah, the shawl, the little tiara, the thing of flowers. Just we went over to Mumbai for who emphasis.
I can get the gloves off commentary from Doug. Thank God. Do you know, like every...
Please don't give me gifts. I don't want any gifts. I don't want any flowers. What the hell am I going to do these flowers?
So, you know,
I'll go back to the hotel room.
Every time I'll watch a the Amazon CEO or some major multinational corporation CEO go to India, the first thing they'll do is this kind of a ceremonial thing where they have this little camphor burning and then they put it on it for... So you're telling me it just doesn't... They don't fucking care.
No, they don't care. It makes them uncomfortable.
Please don't do it.
Please don't do that.
Come on, Doug. We're trying to be culturally sensitive here. You know, I think, wouldn't you like humor people when they have their own customs like that?
I mean, the counter would be that if we had guests coming over from India, we should do that for you. But because that's your local culture.
No, but we understand when we come to a local culture that that's not part of the culture.
Yeah.
Right? Anyway. I don't know where we're going with that. But
I don't know either.
Bjorn Borg.
I just remember that whole experience being
uncomfortable
and weird.
I always thought you guys loved it.
No. Waste of time and money. Well, and it also has sort of a religious overtone too.
Yeah, could be. It's definitely a Hindu ritual, I would say. Yeah.
Well, and as an atheist, I don't really care about that.
Yeah.
If you're a hardcore Christian,
but you're an atheist. I get it, but you're open to every culture and every religion and people who of all faiths, right? Like, I just want to be clear about that.
Yeah. I'm just saying that, right? If it's one thing to be completely open to it, it's another to feel like you're a Christian who's having some sort of Hindu ritual foisted upon you.
Yeah.
I know that can really, really
rub people the wrong way.
Yeah. There are people in the U.S. who object to their children doing yoga at school because they think it's some sort of religious exercise.
Yeah, isn't that a tragedy? I mean, I'm like, my wife was telling me this at the workplace she works at. They told her never to use the word yoga. They're a very Christian organization. Don't use that because of the same reasons. It's people have like certain connotations about religious whatever, and throwing the baby out with the bathwater.
Yeah, exactly.
So Bjorn Borg was supposed to.
He
was supposed to show up at 7 o'clock, let's say, 7 p.m. somewhere at this felicitation thing, and then the chief minister was running late because he had something else going on, and he arrived at 7:45 or something like that, 45 minutes late. And Bjorn Borg said, and he left, and he said he had his son, something was going on with his son. His son plays tennis too. I guess he's a star. So he had to be at his son's thing. And a lot of people were butthurt about that. Like, oh my God, how do you, he's the chief minister of our state. You're disrespecting him. And he's like, no, that's not disrespect. I have priorities in my life. I want to be close to my children and be there for them when they have this.
He disrespected him by showing up an hour late.
No, but you're not supposed to disrespect the king. And damn it, I couldn't get that out. The king shall not be disrespected, goddammit.
That's universal, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, these are fantastic things. To kind of pry open the Midwestern culture, the sensibilities and stuff, and talk about these things are, to me, it's very useful because when I talk to people, like I said earlier, when I talk to people, it's always like, man, take your New York or LA thing and then shove it up. It's always like that. And it's always straw manning whatever I'm talking about. And then meanwhile, you're saying, felicitation is okay. Just don't do that. Don't waste my time. By the way, Doug, before we get far too into the weeds, I got to tell you this thing. And I've talked to you about this a million times. And so my wife reminded me this morning to ask you this too, by the way.
Okay.
You are a 50-year-old something guy, and you've worked in a corporate environment for many, many years, and you retired, and you are a fitness, amazing example of a fit person in their 50s. And I really look up to you. We both look up to you. My wife and me look up to you. And many more people, I'm sure, look up to you. And just to kind of rattle out a few things, you went to a national competition, placed whatever you placed, but you qualified.
Horribly.
It doesn't matter. You made the cut.
Yeah.
You made the cut, which is a very tight, group of people. And it's a treat to have you in Peoria, of all things, and having to know you, it's even more of a treat and a privilege. But how did you ever get on this fitness thing, Doug? I mean, most people, when they retire, they want to, the stereotypical golf and grandkids kind of thing.
Yeah.
You are not that kind of guy.
No, I'm not going to play golf.
You're a squat and deadlift guy.
So routine doesn't bother me. And to some extent, the challenge of weightlifting, I guess, has always been the thing to me. I like that it's an individual thing. Right? It's not a team sport that you're competing with other people. You don't have to rely on anybody else to show up at the gym.
When did you start working out?
When I was 14 years old.
Wow.
When I first got into high school.
Okay. What made you go to the gym?
Because I was a scrawny 100-pound kid. And
was it girls mostly? You wanted to attract chicks and...
No, I'm not sure I knew girls existed.
Oh, really? Oh, you were in a boys' school.
Yeah.
Gosh, this is something that... Me too, by the way.
Yeah, you can start a whole other conversation. In some regards, it's probably a good thing.
No! I strongly disagree with that. Anyway, keep going. I turned out to be this absolute, the most incompetent at talking to the opposite sex, period, guy, because you had not seen this other half of humanity.
So you did the same thing?
Yes.
Oh, till when?
So from 5th to 10th grade was all boys. So 1 to 4 you had. So here was the thing. So 1 to 4, first grade to 4th grade, we were in a mixed, a co-ed, but the co-ed was very skewed. It was like 40 girls to 10 boys kind of deal. Okay,
Okay.
it was a Catholic school, very strict, run by sisters and nuns and all that. Then you get into this Joseph's Indian High School, which is predominantly boys. I mean, not predominantly boys' high school, run by brothers and fathers, just guys. So formative years of your life, 6 formative years of your life, you're just interacting with one sex, and that's it. The only 2 women I knew was my mom and sister, and that's it.
So, well, that's pretty much the same thing we did. By the time we got to junior and senior year, we were trading classes with the girls' Catholic school down the road.
Okay.
So eventually, we had a social life of some sort. The plus is that the education environment is just free of all that baggage that goes along with boys interacting with girls at that age.
Isn't it healthy?
It probably is. It's just not nearly as productive from an educational standpoint.
I was always thinking about girls. It was unproductive for me.
You weren't listening to your
My teachers,
upbringing, yes.
yes. My evil mind.
Yeah, so that got started when I was really, really young.
Yeah.
Working out. I just enjoyed it.
At the school gym, you had a gym at the school?
Yeah.
And did you know what you were doing? Like, how did you learn how to work out and all that?
Oh, no, we didn't know what the hell we were doing. It's just a bunch of weight stations and
Okay.
you fumble as you go along. Honestly, people overthink about the whole weight training in general.
Really?
Yes.
I disagree with that.
As long as you're not just swinging shit around wildly.
I'll tell you a personal...
Even if you're 14 years old, it's really hard to hurt yourself, honestly.
Well, I'll give you an extreme example. When I started working out when I was 17, all I did was chest and upper body. And I ended up with an extremely underdeveloped lower body.
Yeah.
And I regretted it because it's like, nobody there to show you. Again, it's like you're just going to the gym at 17, just doing whatever the hell you want to do. And no internet. 97 this was.
There's no internet, right?
And anyway, that's the downside of it. And now I'm just like, I'm lapping it up off the internet. Like, okay, this guy says this. Okay, let me try that. And
well, part of the reason I say that is that when you look on the internet, what you get is just 1,000 differing opinions about what works and what doesn't. And honestly, I think it comes down, there's just a lot of individual body types.
Yeah, that's true.
You got to try out things and see what works for you.
Yeah. Guys have gotten really sophisticated these days. They will cite these studies from universities and, they'll highlight this 1 rep max and this and that. And they're very, very analytical.
And that's all great if you're trying to eke another 5 pounds out of your personal best.
Yeah.
The vast majority of people just need to get in the gym and work out a little bit.
Right.
They have a long way to go before they're worried about eking out the last 5 pounds.
Yeah. Did your parents support you going to the gym and all that?
My mom was somewhat absentee for most of my teen years.
Okay.
My dad died when I was like 9 years old. And she went through a tough time through my early childhood.
Wow. So how did you take your dad's passing away at such an early age?
Well,
I don't mean to pick old wounds or anything like that.
I was young enough that I probably didn't realize what I was missing.
Okay.
Right. He was sick for a couple of years before that. So, a unsullied memory of him has to go back to like when I'm 6 years old, and you're just really not very coherent when you're 6 years old.
Right.
My sisters were a lot older than I was, right? It was a lot tougher on them just because, they were
Right.
teens, late teens.
How many sisters did you have, or do you have?
I have 3 sisters.
Wow.
I'm the youngest.
Okay.
They can stop now because they have the boy.
Come on. This is America. We're not talking about India, are we? My neighbor, growing up in Bangalore, that was the thing. He was a bank employee and one income household, and they wanted a boy. So they had back to back all 4 girls. Bang, 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 bang. And as you know, you got to save up a lot of money for weddings and stuff like that. But anyway, so you were stop at the boy. Okay, cool.
No, so I played soccer. That was my big thing.
Okay.
Sport was soccer. Weightlifting was just sort of the thing that made me less insecure about being a short, scrawny little kid. And eventually I just liked the way it made me look, and I liked the aesthetic of it. An individual thing, and you're competing against yourself.
I mean, at what age did you realize that aesthetic and all that you started liking?
Yeah, by the time you hit your 20s, right?
Yeah.
People know that you're
lifting.
Weights,
right? Yeah. But it also, like, one of the things people struggle with is that they get off the wagon for a little bit, and then either they don't go back to it because they're like, oh man, I've fallen so far off the wagon, I don't want to get back on it. Did you ever experience that?
No, honestly, it's been pretty damn solid.
Consistent, yeah?
For 40 plus years.
Okay. How many times a week?
Right now it's like 5 times a week.
Okay.
Give or take 3 to 5 times a week.
Do you ever do yoga and stuff like that?
I did yoga for a while.
Yeah.
Honestly, I ended up pulling my back a couple times in the course of a yoga class and just fell out of it partly because of that. It's really hard to do yoga when you screw your back up.
Yeah. And you're also a pretty clean, healthy eater for the most part.
For the most part, yeah.
And when did you develop that habit?
I think that's probably been since early 20s too.
Wow.
Probably consistently for the last 30 years anyway.
It's amazing to me. That requires a lot of resolve, like willpower, right? Like, because you're surrounded with shitty food.
Yeah.
People are eating shitty food around you a lot of times. The choices, you go to different places and it's fast food and things like that.
Well, to me, the thing always is I'll eat shitty food. I just don't eat as much of it.
You don't eat as much of it.
Yeah, you can have some French fries at McDonald's if you throw out half of them. That really is the problem with the way most people eat, right? Is they go to McDonald's and they get a large fry and
eat the whole thing. Yeah, I agree with you.
Go to Applebee's where they serve you 3 times as much as in a McDonald's fry and eat the whole damn thing.
Yeah, I've always, like, that's the thing. I 100% agree with you. It's the taste and that texture of whatever you're eating for that moment. It satisfies the craving you have. More of it is not more pleasure. It's just like,
yeah, that's exactly right.
Just adding pounds and just your belly's growing. By the
end of the fries, you're not tasting the fries anymore. You're just chucking them down.
That's a very mature take on things. When did you have that? When did you get that realization? These are all like nuggets of wisdom. Like, it's not commonplace. I hope you realize that, or hope you know that.
Well, and maybe that's if you're a weightlifter, that's more center, or you're paying more attention to your body than you are if you're just couch potato.
Yeah. And you've never fallen off the wagon. You've and when you go abroad or travel or something, you just find a way to work out.
I do.
In your hotel room or something. There's no equipment.
Usually, I'll even try and find a local gym.
Okay.
And actually, that's sort of part of the tourism thing, is just to see what gyms in other countries are like too.
I thought you were going to say you've been to Indian gyms and stuff, and I was a tourist.
The only gym that I could find in India was at the hotel.
Okay.
Although apparently there was a Gold somewhere in Chennai.
Yeah.
But
Emily worked at Gold's, actually. Did she? No, we worked out at Gold's. She didn't work there. She worked at another gym where. This is a story I've never told anybody, actually. So when she was going to...
India.
This is in India.
Okay.
It's in Chennai, India. So I had moved there originally with Kat. I was working there. And then she was going to come and join me. We're going to get married in India and then live there happily ever after. And at that time, she was a trainer. She was a physical trainer. And so I thought, we'll find her a gig. And so I scouted around Chennai and around my house, and I found this one gym that they said, oh yeah, you can apply whatever, give her a resume. So I did. She landed. She went to the interview, whatever that was, and she spent a grand total of 1 day in the gym, because the day she was spending at the gym, she said to me, as she was standing there, she was waiting to, she's a trainer or whatever. I guess what ostensibly seemed like the owner of the building barges into the building and chews out the owner of the gym because he hasn't paid rent for the last 4 days.
Oh, good.
And just berates the people, the staff, everybody. And she just gets humiliated. She's in the middle of all of this. The first day. I'm not kidding.
It would be really... So did she end up working anywhere in India?
She did.
Okay.
She worked for another gym called O2. And she did very well there, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I just don't ever think of India as like this weightlifting hotspot.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, definitely not. I mean, it is getting there. It's gaining traction because of various reasons. But you've seen it in Titan Fitness. How many Indian people are working out? And we have a lot of Indians in Peoria.
Yeah.
Just bugs me. It bugs me a little bit. Like, hey, we should take care of our health a little bit,
Well, I mean, it doesn't have to be weightlifting.
It doesn't have to be.
You got to find your thing.
Do something physical, but...
You're all playing cricket.
Yeah. Somebody was saying online, it's a lazy man's game. And not my quote. Not my quote.
You're probably right. There's probably not nearly as much physical activity there, is there?
Yeah. If there's 11 players of one side playing, at most 3 people are active at most times. And the remaining 8 are standing around fielding. It's a big ground we're talking. It's not even like a baseball diamond is a different dimension. Here you got a pitch in the center of the field, and you've got a vast amount of free space, 360 degrees around. And
well,
you can be
baseball players I would put on the lowest level of fitness of any professional team. They're just not doing much.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's the gym. It is changing in a way, because my dad was, this time I was in India in September last year. My dad was telling me COVID was a huge wake-up call, and people are taking health seriously, middle class especially, because they saw a lot of morbidly obese people kind of pass away because of the whole thing, and unfortunately, and people are motivated now to take a walk no matter what fitness level they're at.
They just don't have anywhere to walk.
How do you know? How do you know all this? Shh, don't tell anybody.
I've told you this, haven't I?
About Chennai?
Yeah. I mean,
I remember the one quote you said, and at that time it sort of hurt me, but I still chuckle about it. We were talking to a common friend, Dawn, who's a technician, and you so happened to barge into the area where we were talking, and she said, "Huh? So how's India? Would you take me there?" And he said, "Don't go there. There's nothing to see there." In typical Doug fashion, cut and dry.
One of the trips I was going over there, I was like, well, I'm looking at the map, like Google Maps, and it looks like there's a park reasonably close to the hotel.
Yeah.
It's like, I'll bring my shoes, I'll go running while I'm there.
Yeah.
I get there, I start walking around on the street the first day just to sort of scope out the route.
You're walking in the street to get to the park?
Well, I'm walking down the street, just around the hotel, just to sort of get an idea of what the area looks like.
Okay.
And it becomes very obvious to me that the park that they're showing on the map, there's really no way to get to the park. It's just sort of like a vacant plot in the middle of the city. You got to traipse through like a quarter mile of slum to get to the park.
You didn't want to go through a slum? Come on, Doug.
And there are no sidewalks to run in. To get there in the first place, you got to run in the street. There are no sidewalks, as far as I can tell, anywhere in India that go any more than.
Oh my God, it's so sad. It is so sad. I had this guy from the Netherlands on the podcast, Chris Bruntlet, who's is a Canadian guy, but he's part of the Dutch. I don't mean to derail your story. I think it's very pertinent. He's part of the Dutch cycling embassy, and he wants to kind of, I don't know, promulgate would be the right word, like spread how the Dutch do their like they build cycling lanes, biking lanes, and people walking.
Copenhagen. We were in Copenhagen.
Yeah.
Just beautiful bike lanes.
Right.
I mean,
and people are encouraged.
Roadway.
Right. People are discouraged from using a car, encouraged to, be active and all that stuff. And I read his book before preparing for the podcast. One of the things he's saying is that, like, especially when you talk about mobility for older people, like having good sidewalks and bike lanes is like one of the most proven ways to avoid depression at older age.
Well, and all kinds of joint degeneration, right?
Right.
If you have to walk to go to the store, you will, and it's good for you.
Right.
It beats the shit out of, once you end up in a wheelchair, you're going downhill.
I mean, I saw my grandma, she lived in Chennai, and the lane that she lived on, every time I went, you could see a few inches, like the walk lanes would shrink a few inches because the road was being widened. And then there was the, random power distribution.
Yeah. Well, that's exactly right, is that no sidewalk lasts more than 100 feet because it's interrupted with either a tree that's in the right of way, or a power station, or some vendor, and you end up getting dumped back into the road.
And for an 80-plus-year-old person, imagine like navigating all of that.
Yeah.
It's virtually impossible. You should not do it because you'll step in something and you'll hurt yourself.
Yeah, and if you're running, it's a death sentence.
Oh God. Right? Yeah. Don't run on the roads. I mean, especially in cities, I would say.
Well, and part of me was wondering if it was just, I'm just in a shitty area of Chennai where.
Yeah.
But I never. That ended up in Mumbai also, right? It seemed like the same thing going on there.
Yeah, it's a very automobile centric kind of a design, which is biased towards that. Walking is also kind of it's a classist society we live in. Walking is seen as a sign of like, you're
only the poor people walk.
Poor class, yeah. You belong to a lower class of society. So there's all those notions at play as well. So if you walked to somewhere, people would think, "Oh, you're just broke. You're just broke."
Which brings me back to another Indian story. So, of course, we're in the hotel, right? They send a car to get us every day.
Yeah, yeah.
Right, and
you privileged white people, you.
Yeah. So I'm driving in this privileged little taxi to work, and it's raining.
Yeah.
And since the roads in Chennai are just shit, the road is just a mud pit.
Right.
And so I'm driving along, and all these poor son of a bitches on their little scooters.
Yeah.
Right. Driving, and I pull up to a stoplight. We're getting closer to the camp facility. I look over, and I realize that some poor son of a bitch in his little motor scooter next to me is one of the guys that we work with.
Oh, man.
I'm looking over at him, and he just covered in mud. And here I am sitting in my little pristine taxi. It's like, hi.
And he probably had a good attitude about it, too.
Yeah, I mean...
He's like, yo, what are you talking about? It's great. It's just mud.
It's just mud.
Yeah. No, speaking about Google, I had a story too with Google Maps back in 2012. So my in-laws and my wife arrived, and they're staying in a hotel, and so we had to go Saree shopping for the wedding. And then I do all my homework. I know nobody in Chennai like who knows ins and outs and stuff at that point. So I was like, let me just get on Google. Let me do let me get on this stuff. I'm going to get after it. So anyway, I show up bright and early at 8 o'clock. 8 o'clock is bright and early in India. Yeah. 8 o'clock, we show up at the hotel lobby. They all come down. It's like, let's go Saree hunting. We got to try a few things out. This is a big deal. And so we take back in the day, I think it was, it was my phone. I had my iPhone back then. I remember that. So I'm following the directions. The first place, we got to reach the first place. So I'm like, we're following, and it takes us to dead ends along the way.
Well, that's what I was going to say. I can't believe that any of that shit's accurate in India because it's all...
Now it's better. Yeah. But back in 2012, it was very, basic and error prone.
Yeah.
And so, I would run into like just a dead end. And I was like, what the hell? Like, or I would run into a street that was narrower than the width of the car. So anyway, we struggle. The first hour, we got to start off the day right. I'm going to try to make an impression on my in-laws. The first time ever outside of North America. First time in India. I want to impress them. Anyway, we go to this. We finally found the house. It was a house. It was not a fucking Saree showroom. It's a fucking house, and the watchman is standing right there. I'm like, hey, the Google says,
Yeah.
He's like, no, that closed a long time ago. It's like, it's... What a great start.
Yes, what a great start. And you're right about, I don't think, there's nobody in India moving before 11 a.m., right?
Yeah. Yeah, if you, like, people, like, really, like, eyes pop out when you say 7:30, I show up at work. Like, what? Time to go to bed? Most people go to bed at midnight or 1 or something because they're watching late night shows and stuff. It's a very big part of culture. Okay. Dinner at 9:30 would be average.
Yeah, and we used to be all amazed that the Indian guys were working until like 8 o'clock at night.
Right.
It's like, no,
you just offset the clock.
11 o'clock.
Right.
And even then, they spent the first hour at work in
the tea
room having coffee.
Yeah, I know. Like, a lot of times when I go into a new team and I work there, they'd be like, my God, this guy is he's on the computer at 1 a.m. local time. It's like amazing. I'm like, okay, I know what's going on. I'm not going to tell you. I'm not going to bust your bubble here.
Yes. He's working really hard. Just for you.
Good on him. He's working really hard. Oh, gosh. I have some notes I wrote down, like, randomly. I wanted to ask you, why? How are you so blunt to people? How are you? Like, you have the most... Like, you are not the guy who sugarcoats something, okay? Is that true?
The bigger question is how I became a manager at Caterpillar. And honestly, I don't know. They really should have weeded me out eons ago.
Were you one of the truth tellers where everybody else would look at you to say the thing that they were all thinking?
Well, I thought I was.
Okay.
Maybe. But everybody always thinks they're the truth teller in the group, I guess.
I've been in situations where people will say, oh, where's Jim? He's like, where's Jim when we need him? Like, because they're too scared to voice their opinion.
Oh. Well, I don't know. I feel like I'm somewhere. was not completely naive that you can just say absolutely anything you ever wanted to.
Yeah.
I mean, there were certainly things
I know.
that I wouldn't have told the group
Yeah.
ever.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, in the grand scheme of Caterpillar managers, I would probably spurt less of the company line than some.
Than the truth. No, you're very like gloves off in that sense, and it's a breath of fresh air, I would think.
Well, it'd be different if I thought I was offending lots of people, or maybe that's just I don't recognize that I'm offending anybody. But
I was thinking it would be different if I wanted to climb up the ladder. I thought that's what we were gonna say.
well, I never had delusions that I was going to be a VP.
Yeah, it never appealed to you?
No, I always just had it sort of stuck in my mind that hey, if engineering manager that's fine.
Yeah.
You know, if something else happens beyond that, that's great too. But I'm just never particularly butthurt that I wasn't a VP.
What is it like? That's a curiosity question for me. Is that once you become a manager, like a 26 or whatever the salary grade is there like the most people who reach that stage? Is there like a sort of impetus internally to say, all right, when is my next 27 and 28?
Well, I mean, I think it is human nature to want to believe that you are in the top 20% of your field. Right? Everybody thinks they're above average, right? And so,
do they?
Yes, everybody does.
Now let's not revisit my PDP.
What I will say is that when you see people getting promoted past you that you think are just completely incompetent,
Yeah.
that's irritating. But
Yeah.
I always sort of viewed it as, there are lots of good managers at Caterpillar.
Yeah.
And
for sure.
You get promoted by being at the right place at the right time. Well, by being reasonably good at your job and being at the right place at the right time.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember one of the people, I think we both mutual admiration or something, Brian Lammers. I remember him saying in one of the division meetings, which I thought was a very, very compelling point he made, was that, look, your promotions are going to depend on not just, you performing really well, but it's also the opportunities, the luck that at some point you worked on something that's high visibility. It's, and it's like, well, that's true. That's just an unavoidable part of corporate life and corporate ascension,
Well, it's that in whoever it is that's the hiring manager, right? There's a certain type of people that they're looking for. Right? I mean, like right? I mean, Jeff is looking for people like Jeff.
Yeah.
And if you're not that same personality, then you're probably not going to do very well in his selection process.
Is it that simplistic? You just want your archetype, more of your archetype? Don't you want like a diverse, not diverse in the diversity sense, but diverse like, don't you want to assemble a team that complements each other and a well-balanced team rather than filling it with your clones?
I saw some managers who had that thought process.
Which thought process?
That I was trying to create a diverse team.
Okay.
I saw others that were clearly gathering little clone colonies.
Yeah. I don't know how we got off on the corporate topic, but you speak truth tellers.
Okay.
Truth tellers.
Right. Yeah.
It takes balls to be a truth teller, right?
No, what it started was that I'm just blunt.
Yeah.
worried about offending. That isn't necessarily the same thing as truth-telling, but
It sort of is. You're telling what everybody else wants to openly say, and I don't know. Like I've only seen you as a frontline manager, so that's been my experience. I don't know about your interactions with other managers and stuff, so I can only speak to that. But you were certainly one of those guys who would speak your mind with us, and I would say you gained a lot of respect because of that.
Yeah,
from your frontline people.
And I don't think you would get a completely different view from the managers that I work with.
Okay.
At least in terms of my role on staff was not to be necessarily the yes man.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen those sorts of people. Although, honestly, I was relatively blessed in that there aren't a whole lot of people that I worked with as a manager that I thought were just complete dog turds.
Yeah.
I mean, some had different strengths than others.
Yeah.
Look at somebody like Steve Sherwood, right?
Yeah.
Is just absolutely morally centered, right?
Absolutely.
I never, ever questioned that Steve Sherwood was making a decision that was going to be bad for his people.
Yeah.
Right. And so, I feel like I've worked with a lot of good managers.
Yeah. There were a lot of good managers and a lot of good engineers. I felt like we're just blessed with a huge cohort of, like, especially in the 05 to 15, I would say, period was, I would just walk around and talk to people and cross paths with different managers or engineers, and I'm like, these are all good people, and I would hear my buddies work on the coasts or big cities and things like that, and just kind of the corporate rat race kind of companies, like finance or IT and things like that. And it would be a different sentiment when I spoke to them. They would talk about, they were just not happy with what they were surrounded by, with the management class and things like that. And I would always like go to bat for Cat, and they still probably make fun of me. They would make fun of me that you are the old oak tree in the Caterpillar parking lot. Like you will be the last guy standing among all of us. And I took pride in that. Like,
I've never, as an engineer,
it would be they would say that to kind of knock you down a notch, because you're just like this. First of all, Peoria, this is my moment of catharsis with my buddies, is that Peoria is viewed as like you're a second-class citizen right off the bat. So there,
you've settled for Peoria in the first place, so clearly you will not be unhappy settling there for long.
You settled for it. Oh God, yes, that's the implication there. And then second of all is that it's this, the common thing they would say is that it's like it's like working at an old, not old, but at a government office in India. That was the worst insult you could throw upon a company, was that it's like an old Indian government office, because like nothing gets done. Most people kind of wing it and stuff like that. And it was all these stereotypes about what they perceived of as Caterpillar. And I would go to bat for it, like hopeless romantic as I am, because I crossed paths with extremely, like you said, morally centered, smart, experienced people who had, like, this is the theory that I have, is that you're working with ground engaging tools. You can't fuck that up. You can't lie to yourself about that.
Well, I feel like all the areas, even that you worked in, certainly the ones that I worked in, and even the way Caterpillar structures their assignments, is that we were always learning something new.
Yeah.
And it's not like you were just going through the motions of the same thing over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And you were learning a new product, or you were learning a new skill. I mean, you could do that for your entire career as an engineer and be happy.
It's very underrated, I would say. That kind of, you don't see that often. You've got these narrow niche companies where you're working on one thing and then you work on the next advanced thing of that. You're not switching domains per se. And I switched a lot of domains from hydraulics and software to validation to...
We all thought you sucked and if you were somewhere else.
Shh, don't tell anybody. I'm going to beep that out. I'm going to beep that out, Doug.
Okay.
No, I'm not. No, that is very, like, that is a huge lesson to be learned, I feel like. And of course, it's circumstantial too, right? Like, because it's like we're making the whole product, therefore you can go do all these things.
Yeah. And Cat Electronics was a big enough organization, you could have, even if you were a salary grade 22 engineer, you could hop around to 100 different positions and be doing something different every 3 years.
It's just, I mean, it breaks monotony, it expands your intellectual horizons.
Yeah.
Excuse me. I mean, nowadays they talk about it's better to be a generalist than a specialist. I mean, the more you know about the broader big picture, the more marketable your skills are rather than being highly specialized and all that. So it lends itself to that. And you're meeting a lot of people and you're connecting people and you're connecting organizations because you've worked in some other disparate group there and then you know somebody there. And
well, I think even from a human standpoint, right, you shouldn't spend more than 5 years in the same job or the change of scenery is good.
yeah. How much do you think that happens in regular corporate America, though?
Lockheed was not as conducive to that, but I don't have that many more data points.
Yeah. From what I've seen,
what I do know is, right, the smaller the company is, you're just a
You're
lot
limited.
more pigeonholed.
right,
Right, because there's only
Right.
5 engineers in your company. There's only
Right.
so many different positions you can have.
right. We can clip all of this out and put it on the Caterpillar. Join our company, internalcareers.com. By two people who are not working,
There you
but
go.
have high regard for sure. I was talking to our mutual, again, the guy Jeff, by the way. I was pitching an idea to him that I wanted to. This is just a
Where does
random.
Lentz work now?
Oh, he works at Amazon. He works in some kind of data scientist kind of a role.
Okay.
Yeah, he's a busy dad. He's got three boys, and
Fantastic.
yeah. But knowing your sense of humor, random question, have you ever watched or heard about Ren and Stimpy?
Yeah, yeah.
Do you?
It's been a long ass time since I've watched Ren and Stimpy.
Did you like it when you watched it?
No, I thought it was pretty sophomoric, but
It's sophomore. You thought it was sophomoric? Is that what you're saying?
yeah. It's like Beavis and Butthead.
It's not sophomoric. It's social commentary.
Okay.
It is sophomoric. Okay. I love the reason I'm asking is that I just love all of it. South Park, Beavis and Butthead, Ren and Stimpy, all of these classics.
South Park I enjoy in small doses. It's not like something I turn on every day, but
Yeah.
I could sit through an episode and laugh.
It's I think it's like a huge correction mechanism for society. It's like the greatest feedback signal.
Well, you go back to Truth Tellers, right? That is one of the... South Park is one of those cartoons, right, that was more than happy to offend everyone.
For good reason.
Yes.
These people deserved it. Whoever they made fun of. Right? The latest one with Meghan Markle and Prince Harry. Oh, God. It just, like, they went for the jugular and they didn't stop. It was so satisfying to see the whole thing. They just don't stop. It's just like they gave it where it hurts, and they're the prince and princess of Canada, I guess. They're so like, you talk about, what is that, plausible deniability. They get it perfect, hit it on the head, and then we all had a great laugh. It was just so like catharsis for all of us. Like, oh God, enough. Thank God somebody made fun of him.
Ren and Stimpy, Jeff Letts. Where the hell were you going?
No, I was just asking you if you like this. Really quick. I'll tell you why it's important to have. It's not just sophomoric. By sophomoric, you're just downplaying. You're saying that's just kind of juvenile kind of humor. I guess where I'm going with it is that. So I was watching this show called The Romantics on Netflix. Okay, so it's a show about Bollywood, history of Bollywood, and kind of working their way up from when it was first kind of established, and the movies and the legendary directors, the actors, and all of that
I'm sure
stuff.
that's doing well in the U.S. I'm sure.
Oh yeah, it's like top X. And no, it's really doing well. It's really doing well. I know you're being sarcastic, but it's actually doing very well.
Okay.
It showed up in our top 10 list at some point. That's why my wife clicked it. Anyway, so you talked.
It showed up in your top 10 list.
No, I said the top in the U.S.
Really?
I think so.
No.
Americans are very up on the Bollywood IQ.
No, they're not.
No, they are. They think of it as this exotic kind of like, full of color and music and all that stuff, the dance and all that stuff. Like they have this romantic.
Find 1 out of 20 people who would tell you what Bollywood was.
If you go to the big cities, oh yeah, I'll tell you, I guarantee you that.
Okay, I'm sorry.
And people want to show their social IQ and things like that. Like, hey, guess what? I know about Bollywood. You peasant, you.
Okay,
I'm
diverting you.
I'm enlightened. No, but I'm watching the show, and I was telling my wife last night. I was like, I got into about 1.5 of the show, and it's like, man, fuck, we need this South Park kind of a show. Like, you talk about the most entitled fucking, like, you can tell by the just this kind of like, I don't know how to put it, like not self-indulgent, but narcissistic, nepotistic. They're just tone deaf. They're talking about how the average Indian in the 90s was like, this aspiring class, and everybody wanted to move ahead, and we had Coke and Pepsi, and they're throwing up KFC, pizza. All the worst exports from the USA are now symbols of India's ascension in the 90s.
They probably have Applebee's in India now too.
Yes. A for Applebee.
It's in the Chennai tourism site.
I mean, talk about, I'm not getting the right word. I wish I got the right word. It's just like, these people are like, they're so in their curated group of people. There's no truth. There's nobody to tell the emperor has no clothes.
Okay.
And it's like, they have this very romantic view of India. And if anybody denuded India,
don't go there. There's nothing to see.
There's Doug Koehlers of the world. I mean, that would be a joke in South Park. Don't do that, Felicitation. Don't fucking do it. It's a waste of time. Hear me out. We don't care. My dad would be very, very upset, by the way. He loves that sort of thing. He just loves the felicitation stuff. But yeah, anyway, I feel like that's the function that those satirical shows play in society, because then you're watching your tail. Like, hey, how entitled and privileged am I? Oh, these people are making fun of me. Okay, I need to back off.
Yeah, they're not going to make fun of you.
They're not going to make fun of me, thank God. I hope they make fun of me, but...
That actually would be... if all of us had our own, like, personal South Park writer following us around, satirizing everything that we did. I don't know, would that be a good thing or a bad thing?
It's a good signal for society to not be full of itself. That's the way I would frame it.
As long as you're not the target of it.
No, I'm okay. I think people need a little bit of humble pie. Don't you think?
Until they're making fun of you. Then it's not so funny anymore.
No, I really reflect when that happens. And I'm really self-critical.
You're right. There's nothing that is more humbling than having people critiquing you.
Yeah, and I actually had that happen to myself. Like at some point in the last couple of years, I had that kind of like thought due to various reasons. I won't get into that. And there was this extreme amount of embarrassment in my past. Like, oh my God, I have these tics, or I say these things, or I act this way. I'm sometimes I have this paper thin ego. I have thin skinned, and it just hurt me. It just hurt me for a good 6 months to a year. Like I'm going to try and be self-critical and examine what I'm doing and self-correct, so that I don't regret my 42-year-old self, 41-year-old self. God, it's just like cringy, some of those moments, it's like, ugh. And if you're giving somebody the signal via South Park, that's good.
Okay.
Give people that feedback. We need to know if we're full of ourselves.
Need to realize they're being douchebags.
Hey, so you worked at the Proving Grounds, right?
Yep.
And for those who aren't familiar with the Proving Grounds is a engineer's dream.
It's a big sandbox.
It is a sandbox, but it also is like somebody who wants to work outdoors in the dirt and wants to work on hard engineering problems, or not so hard, but problems in general. This is a place where you just get on a machine and you just kind of, you get to do the real thing.
Yes.
With your hands, you're working on putting out a real product.
To recruit people into Caterpillar. You take them out to the Proving Ground and tell them this is what you're going to do.
It's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
What was your experience there? Like, could you?
So it's one of those things where being in the right place at the right time was. I was a black belt, a master black belt training. And
this is the Six Sigma black belt, not the karate.
Six Sigma black belt.
Right. This is the corporate.
And was an engineering manager at a time when they were rolling out that training.
And were a black belt, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. Okay, I didn't know that.
And so they were looking for engineering managers to go into black belt roles. And so I left my position in systems and controls and went into being a full-time black belt. And
what does that entail? What do you do as a black belt?
I was just running projects. The whole hodgepodge of projects around the tech center. One of them was examining oil change intervals and hydraulic systems. One of them was optimizing the number of administrative assistants.
What, really? Wow. Pretty specific.
And the last one I did was looking at facilities at the Proving Grounds for doing AccuGrade testing.
Okay.
And so by the time that was winding down, the tech manager out there was looking for somebody to put a group together. He really didn't know what he was going to call it, but it was around software and controls.
Okay.
And so I essentially helped define that role and put the group together.
Just to go back to your black belt thing, I don't want to gloss over that. So when you're running a project as a black belt, you have a sort of a recipe that you're using, the DMAIC or DMEDI recipe, and it's a very kind of methodical way of going about solving a problem, developing a product, or improving a process or something like that. So it covers a broad range of what you would consider product development. Problem
solving and product development.
Yeah, and it's very systematic.
Very systematic, very rational engineer. It's an engineer's dream.
Yeah, and that way you're not missing out. It's almost like a checklist in some ways. Just to give an analogy, I guess it's like, okay, you have to define the problem first, which means that you have to have like a statement put together, crafted the right way, and
to define the process that you're trying to optimize in the first place.
Yeah.
What are the inputs? What are the outputs? What are all the things we're going to measure?
Yeah. And inputs not in the engineering sense, but in the abstract. Like what
Yeah.
Who are you going to contact? Who's going to give you your data and blah 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 and all of that stuff. I don't know. I've never heard of it, and it's not. I don't know if it's taught in colleges, but it's a corporate training that you go through to go from green to, I guess, black belt directly.
Yeah, there was a yellow belt.
Okay.
Belt,
Okay.
belt.
And you have to, and as a black belt, you get included in projects because you understand the process, and then you sort of run it. Even though you're not a manager, you're running it. I guess why I'm dwelling on it is it's a very, like I'd literally never heard of Six Sigma before I joined CAT ever. And it was, I mean, I went to the green belt training, but that was just, for me at that point, was just very mechanical. Like, okay, you just kind of flip through and get to the PowerPoints. But then as I applied it to a project back in 2016, 17, then it's sort of like, oh God, this is fantastic. This is just a great template around which you could just take a hard problem and break it down, right?
You even got the light version of it. It was...
Right.
Right, when I went through that training, I was like wave 4. Right, and so it was like 4th class who had gone through the training, and the CEO was, right, that was his baby.
Oh, okay.
Right, we are going to implement this here. All of our decisions are going to be made this way.
Oh, okay.
And right, they felt strongly enough about it, right, that they pulled engineering managers out of supervisory roles and put them into these classes.
What did you think about the whole thing, the initiative to do that?
I thought, right, this is a guy who wants to make a mark on the company and is putting his money where his mouth is.
Okay.
Right? I mean, he pushed that through the entire company.
Wow.
From top to bottom.
It takes a lot of conviction to do that.
It does.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, we do lots of things half-assed in little corners in the company. And
right.
That was one of the rare instances where the whole company was doing the same thing at the same time.
Yeah, that's one of the things I always admired about CAT was these kind of sweeping things that we did, which like people believed, they had convictions that this was the right thing. Like Agile came in 2011.
Yeah.
And it's like the biggest buzzword these days, and it has been for a few years. But then we were early on the bandwagon in 2011.
Yeah, and that was, I would say that was one of the other times when we did a good job of it. I mean,
right.
We probably let that fizzle a little bit in the last handful of years.
Oh, really?
In terms of the
Agile,
discipline of it.
The discipline of it, yeah.
It was a good initiative when we put it in, and it did a lot of good for us.
Yeah. That's one of the fascinating things to me is like when you're running a 100,000 people company with, I don't know, 10,000 engineers, let's say 10% of the engineers, 10% of the company being engineers, you're pushing down a new agey thing at that point anyway, Six Sigma and all that stuff. It takes a lot of guts and courage and conviction, and because your metrics are measured with your performance and people want the most millions of dollars, right?
But as a manager, you realize how hard it is to get everybody to buy into your vision of the universe, right? Even at that level.
I know. I've heard, like, walking in the hallway, Six Sigma, things like that thrown around, and I think at the frontline level, people are just, there are a lot of people who poo-poo it. Like, they don't care for it.
Yeah.
And then you're not forcing, but you're trying to bring about a sea change in how things are done around here. I don't know. It just, I have a lot of respect for that sort of, like, you got to have, like, steely resolve for that sort of thing.
Well, and Owens was, right, that's who started the whole Six Sigma thing.
Okay.
He was the old school Caterpillar manager, right? He really was an engineer.
Oh, he was an engineer.
Well, was he actually an engineer? He ran it like
I can
an
look it
engineering
up.
company.
Yeah. He ran it like an engineering company. Yeah.
I don't remember what his degree was. I don't remember.
Yeah. Anyway, I derailed you from... So you become a manager.
Oh,
They
PPT,
formed this group.
yeah.
Yeah, they formed the controls and software testing validation. Sorry,
Yeah.
group, and you became the manager
Yeah.
of that. For how many years did you do that?
4 years there.
Wow. Okay.
And then back into CAD Electronics. Well, into CAD Electronics. I never actually worked for CAD Electronics prior to that.
Okay. And the Proving Grounds is a different culture, work culture, so to speak, right?
Well, and I think it tends to get glamorized a lot too, right?
Does it?
Yeah. Well, from the standpoint of it is glorious to work out the Proving Grounds for about 3 or 4
Until
months
November.
out of the year. Summer is just a hot, sweaty mess. Winter is just
Brutal.
brutal, and spring is a mud pit.
Yeah.
There's a lot of baggage that goes along with it.
There is, and but also like as a kid, you know, I played around with big toys like diggers and things like that. It's like when you grow up to be an engineer and you see that there's this massive, what is that? What is that machine we make where it scrapes a scraper, wheel tractor scraper? What?
I have no idea where you're going there. Yes, it's great.
Jeremy Manson is rolling in his grave right now.
Who is?
Jeremy Manson, he was the system coordinator for scrapers for.
It's not rolling. Is he still alive, right?
Yes.
Oh, but you can still use that for somebody who's alive, rolling in his grave? I thought you had to be dead.
Technically, I suppose you have to be dead, but
Okay, I'll start using it on living people from now on.
Jeremy's not dead yet. Let's just say that.
Anyway, so when I see a huge wheel tractor scraper tilted on the tilt table, held together with chains, and it's just they're measuring different things, parameters and stuff like that, it's just like gives you chills. It's just, fuck, this is great. This is so inspiring. I'm so connected to.
Although, here's the flip side to that is
Yeah.
the fact that we were actually testing shit on a tilt table as opposed to just running calculations is somewhat horrifying.
Let's not open the can of worms.
CG
Shall
of a
we?
machine should be somewhat determinable from a
Yeah.
model, shouldn't it?
I mean, you could apply that to a lot of other things too. Come on. We did a lot of things the hard way. Man.
Corey H. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, so you were my manager from 07 to 10, and again from 06 to 9. 2019. Can I tell you something really quick?
Yes.
I can get this off my chest, and I don't think it would matter anyway, but
I'm afraid I scarred the young regime.
I had this opinion of you that you were a racist, Midwestern piece of shit manager. Can I be honest with you?
Very good.
You know why? I have to explain as to why. There was a gal who I won't name, and she was in my same cohort. She was a fellow Indian person. And I think on our one-on-one, you and me, you had said to me that you're not going to pursue her, and I might be completely butchering it because it's 15 years ago, right? So completely butchering it. And I was naive, immature, fill in the blank back then. And so I was just probably looking for victimhood, and maybe that's what it was. But this is the story. This is the story, though.
As remembered by regime.
As remembered by me, was that you said something to the effect that I'm not going to pursue the green card for this person because, oh my God, she might just start getting out of hand because she got the golden ticket to being an immigrant who settled in America, and so you can't have a leash on this person anymore. And it's very damaging to say something like that.
Oh, God, yeah. I
Right?
kind of hope I didn't actually say it.
Now that you said it, you said it. Yes. You hurt my feelings.
Okay.
No, I remember selective hearing, selective interpretation of whatever you had said at that point. I don't even know what it was. So anyway, I thought to myself, like, okay, this guy, I remember one time I got that changed on me, and of course people evolve. In 16 when you became a manager again, or something like that. And I remember you were telling me something about you were going to vote for Hillary, not Trump. And then I was like, really, Doug? You're going to vote? And he said, what do you think? I'm this right-wing Republican Trump, guy or something like that. And that was the moment I was like, okay, I had a wrong read on you all the while. And anyway, it's a good segue to one of the things I want to talk to you about is that you're a very kind of liberal person. And don't tell me it's atheism. Don't tell me it's atheism, because that would explain a lot.
Well, that certainly helps.
But you're one of the most like Midwest, stereotypes and archetypes are not that they're racist. No, absolutely not. Everybody, most 99% of people I meet are the most like salt of the earth people I respect. So I love the Midwesterners. But there's also like you're the kind of liberal-minded person that would open arms, be chill with homosexuality, you don't care about sexual orientation, all of these things. Like these are like things that just a liberal attitude towards these things. And you're like, I really, this is not my place to place my judgments on. That society, do as you will, just don't tell me what to do, kind of liberal attitude. And I admired that about you,
Yeah. Part of that comes from upbringing too, right? Had a relatively, that's interesting, right? Because Catholic upbringing is not necessarily compatible with that thought process.
Right.
But my sisters, that I've considered to be a very strong influence on me.
Really?
And
how so?
Well, they're all older than I am, right? So
yeah, but they were still from Kentucky.
But they were all very liberal-minded.
Yeah, Kentucky is not known to be that liberal bastion of America.
Exactly. So how did we end up here? Who the hell knows?
Oh, really?
Well, part of it too, right, is that, like I said, my father died when I was relatively young.
Mm-hmm.
And so it wasn't the traditional household for a while. And I think when you grow up in a non-traditional household, you get more of a flavor of not everybody is living a charmed life.
Okay.
Right? And sometimes everybody needs help. And so you shouldn't look at people who are poor as being somehow morally bankrupt, or people who are looking for assistance at some point in their life as being defective, right? I think that's part of the liberal mindset, is that everybody needs help at some point in their life.
That's very interesting. That adversity is the thing that makes you more broad-minded, in a sense. Or adverse circumstances, so to speak.
Circumstances.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that's sort of episodic, right? It's not anybody's fault, but right, if you grew up in a traditional household where everything went according to plan, you probably do have the idea that everybody who's on welfare
was just evil and lazy. Yeah. That's fascinating to me, Doug. Like I remember the story you've told me in the past that you sat. It's maybe a detour, but you sat amongst many engineers at lunch one time, and then you made a disparaging comment about creationism. Quickly realized how far you had crossed the line.
Because I listened to an NPR story earlier in the day. The Pew Charitable Trust, right? They do all kinds of surveys.
Right. The Pew Research,
declared that fully 30% of the U.S. population believes in creationism. And I just found that baffling. And you're right. Brought it up at the lunch table. I was like, oh my.
You were looking for people to laugh with you, and all you got was scorn. Oh gosh, that one of my favorite stories. I've had that happen too, as you can imagine. Anyway, I've had that happen on many occasions, and just embarrassed after the fact.
Yeah, the creationism thing, it's one of those, well, the literal reading of the Bible is something that's just always baffled me. But even as a Catholic, I mean, we did our share of Bible reading, but never took it as literal.
Yeah.
I just never understood that.
I was telling my wife about the moment you had your realization that, you became an atheist and stuff like that, like when you had gone off to this camp in Colorado or somewhere. If I'm butchering, I'm sorry if I'm butchering the story, but you'd gone off, you were kind of in this kind of contemplative state of mind.
Yeah.
You were thinking about things, you were contemplating the universe or whatever, and then it occurred to you like, well, is it really all true? Come on,
Well, is it all true? And do you need all that baggage to have a society that functions well?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people convince themselves that religion needs to exist for society to carry on in a rational way, and I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I'm just not sure that's true at all.
You've heard of Jordan Peterson, I'm guessing, or have you?
That didn't ring a bell.
Okay, so Jordan Peterson is he's a Canadian professor who rose to fame in 2016 for various reasons. But anyway, he's a big proponent of that theory that those stories have a lot of merit in it, and we can glean, the moral,
good moral lesson
artifact. Yeah. There's a lot of moral things from there, and I'm with you on that too. Is that if you think about things critically, if we had a critical thinking bent of mind, then a lot of these things would just kind of should make intuitive sense to you. Like, don't hurt somebody's feelings, for example.
Yeah, murder is wrong.
Murder is not a good thing. It's going to lead us to the wrong spot.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I grew up. I grew up as a very religious kid. By the way, just a quick anecdote. I would do all the rituals above and beyond than what my elders would do because I really valued it. And trying to think where I'm trying to go with this.
Well, let me sidetrack you for a moment. So you went to Catholic school.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good lane to go to.
How does that work?
Welcome to India. No, that's the beauty of India. I feel like, as much as I have these days, anyway, I have certain reservations about my home country. It's like it was the melting pot, and we kind of lived that back in the 90s, not so much now. Back in the we lived that ideal that take the good parts from wherever you can. And even though my parents were religious Hindu people, they felt the Catholic education is good. It's a lot of discipline, and they're strict, and they teach you good English, for example. And they saw all their peers sending their kids to Catholic schools, and it was the gold standard.
Okay.
If you sent your kids to Bishop Cotton's high school, all these, I guess, were saints. Bishop Cotton was a bishop, but Bishop Cotton's, Sacred Hearts, St. Germain's, I went to St. Joseph's.
And just a good school.
These were all like schools in Bangalore. So Bangalore, the city I grew up in, had a English part of town, and then there was a Hindu part of town. It's like almost like a perfect line drawn through the center of the city.
Railroad track separating.
It could very well be. You had it. I mean, I realized this in retrospect. Actually, I didn't realize when I was a kid. Like, that part of town, there was a lot of fun shit to do, and this part of town, you had to just not have so much fun. It was like a very like.
Wait, which one's which?
So I grew up in a very like Hindu-centric kind of part of town.
They're the no fun crowd?
Most of the time.
Okay.
And then you went to the British Anglo part of town. You had everything from, the British, I guess, not the consulate, but you had a British cultural center. You had all the streets named after, Church Street, Brigade Road. I mean, you had all these kind of commercial street, all these kind of just not Hindu names.
Presumably all named in colonial times.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and then the buildings were all that architecture, the British colonial period architecture. The infrastructure I felt was better. And then you had all the schools that were all Catholic. Majority of them were Catholic, and Protestant schools too. But that was the side of town that you had the discotheques, and then you had bars and pubs. Bangalore was known as the pub capital of India, and still is. It's just
all that horrible drinking.
Yeah. The Westerners brought all their stuff with them and spoiled us all, poor innocent Indians.
Yes. Perfect.
But going back to your question, that's how my parents looked at it. Like, go to a Catholic school because that would give you that kind of discipline and stuff like that. And they still stand by that to this day. I say that because now there is more of a tilt towards like a religious kind of, like a Hindu-centric kind of a nation. We want to make it Hindutva.
Okay.
I don't know if you've ever followed Indian politics lately, but
Modi seems to be a little more nationalistic than...
Yeah, there's a strain of that. There's like, let's go back to the old times kind of, not quite akin to the MAGA movement, but it's a different kind of a MAGA movement, I would say.
Right.
Like, hey, let's go back to that period of time when we were the majority.
The good old days.
The good old days when we used to be bigots. I'm going to beep that out.
As long as we can get rid of all those Pakistanis.
Yes, and yes, they are worst possible enemies. So that's why I, from an idealistic standpoint, I did that podcast for 3 hours. We got into a lot of things with that guy, my buddy of mine, Wajahat. It's because I felt that, man, how do we steer this ship back to where it used to be in the 90s? Where it's just like, we got to dial this down a little bit.
Oh, we got to dial it up because we got another election coming.
Yeah,
So
we got to pander to all the bigots, Oh gosh, and no, that's the weird thing for me is that I went to St. Joseph's Indian High School. Is worth mentioning, I went to a school which had it was a melting pot of Christian kids. Again, in the school, they would separate you out on Wednesdays to go to chapel. There was definitely that, but you never thought of it as much. Nowadays, people do think of that. You had that kind of melting pot, ethos, and people like, you do your thing. You do your thing, and we'll all do our own things. And I'm thankful for it.
Well, the nice thing about Catholics as a subset of Christianity is we're not nearly as, I'll say, judgy.
Yeah.
From the standpoint of, right, there's some sects on the Christian side where if you don't believe in exactly what we believe in, you're going to hell.
Yeah. Yeah.
Catholics are at least a little more accepting as a group.
For sure. I've most of the American girls I've dated in America have been Catholic, and God bless for America for that. God bless the Catholics for that. They welcomed me with open arms, quite literally. My wife grew up a Catholic, I guess. So
atheist now too, apparently.
Yeah, she's on the spectrum somewhere.
Yeah.
I wouldn't call her. I don't know. She definitely not a devout Catholic. Yeah, definitely not that. And we've managed to kind of meet at the middle over the years on a variety of different things. And like you said earlier, a lot of these things are common sense. And I bring my Indian sensibilities, and she brings her American and sensibilities, and we kind of forge a new path forward that suits both of us. And it's great. It's great because we take the best of both. Doug, it's coming up on 2.5 hours.
Oh my God! Really?
What a pleasure it's been.
Holy shit! Really?
God. I mean, we can still go on. We don't have to. Right. I'm not trying to. I'm just trying to make you aware that
the good news is you'll have to cut this down to like a half an hour to make anything coherent out of it.
No. This whole thing is coming out full formed. Yeah. No, people. I mean, I've had others, like you've probably seen one of those, like 2.5, 3 hours. It's like, everything is like that, and I think like it is these kind of like open-ended, long-form interactions that is going to open up our minds eventually. It's not going to be the sound bites. The sound bites look like it's propaganda material, right?
You can edit at least a half an hour and sell it to the Caterpillar HRT.
That for sure. And somebody could edit all the bigoted stuff that I said, you said, and make a separate YouTube video and show us how horrible we are as human beings. And that will most likely happen with everything in the, the AI and its misuses and all of that stuff. Or just an editing piece of software. You don't need AI for this. Rajiv said this about his home country, and he's selling us out and making fun of us, and he's playing along with Doug. Can you believe it? Yeah. What a traitor.
Who, by his own admission, is a racist.
Admission is a racist?
But you had described me as a racist
at
one point.
Can I kind of close the loop on that? So the more I got to know you as the years went by, I was like, that notion started to evaporate, thank God. So I came a full circle, and I was like, I don't know what happened there. Like, why did I think of this person as that? Like, I think in 2008, I was definitely living under a rock in the sense that I believe they were in the Midwest. I bought into this narrative. It's also like, it's worth saying that, you buy into certain narratives that I don't know, back in the day, it was, the internet hadn't proliferated as much as today. Yeah. So you have all these, like Reddit and stuff like that. I love that because have you heard of Reddit by any chance? Have you gone there by any chance?
Sporadically.
Okay.
That's a weird.
It is a weird town square.
Yeah.
Yeah. I freaking love it. It's my favorite social media consumption thing. I don't get into anything else except Reddit.
Okay.
And I'm selective about what I get into, but it's just like this let the good ideas win, let the bad ideas kind of be shown how bad they are, and we're all anonymous, so we're not going to try and. It's like there's no reputation at stake here. Who cares?
Yeah, anonymous has its pluses and minuses.
It does, but you'll notice that if there's a subreddit that predominantly values valuable conversations, that subreddit, people who are the trollers, the pranksters, the assholes, they drop off because they get overpowered eventually. That's a interesting phenomenon to me, because they'll get immediately kind of like punished. You'll get a negative rating, a negative, karma, whatever. Anyway, so I was going on a tangent there, but I guess what I'm trying to say is that like as life progresses, as one gets to experience life as you grow older and stuff, and I'm like, this guy is not that bad after all.
Well, and it just reminds everybody that, well, two things. First off, as an engineering manager, the first couple of years at it, it's horrifying how much some people hang on the things that you're saying.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, and you realize that as a manager, people are paying attention to what you say a lot.
Sure. You mean your employees, for sure.
Your employees.
Yeah.
And you got to be careful about what you're saying.
Yeah.
And even then, things that you say may be misconstrued.
Yeah.
Because you're not being clear, or people are hearing, are focusing on the wrong things that you're saying.
Yeah.
Well, particularly if you're a blunt person who says whatever comes across your mind, like I tend to do sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, and also as an Indian immigrant, I guess you're programmed to think of authoritative figures and frame them a certain way in your life.
Yeah.
And you're kind of rigid, I guess. I was rigid in the way I used to think about those things, and then you mature, I guess. You just learn.
Well, you get used to it. Well, I mean, that's the thing, right? The longer you spend in the U.S., the more you realize that here nobody expects the boss to be
Perfect.
the voice of God.
Yeah.
He's just...
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you're certainly not an authoritative figure either. You definitely embody the spirit of like, I'm not your slave master. Or did you think that way? I'm a slave master.
No.
No, I'm kidding. No, I guess what I'm saying is that the way you approached your job was just that you were senior among us. You had leadership skills, therefore you put in that job, and you're here to help us out, try to get to where we need to go to. I mean, I know I'm sucking up to an ex-manager here, but it's really, that's the way you came across as. Like you're just here. The function you're playing was to do all of these things, and you're not looking this as a power trip. You know, there's a lot of that going on, right? Power trip managers and stuff,
Yeah,
and
there was a handful of those.
not a lot, but a handful. Yes. And you play the game for the right reasons, and I respect you for that.
Well,
you know?
let's say that the last interaction that we had, right, when you were in our testing group,
Yeah.
that I just thought that was just a shit ton of fun working with you.
Oh, yeah.
At that stage of the game,
Likewise.
you were just really, really good at your job.
Oh, thank you.
I mean, honestly, you were the best person in that job in the group at that time, and probably are still one of the better people we've ever had in that role.
Well, thank you, Doug. That's very kind words.
But that's a point in time when it's just so easy to be a manager, right? Because you got somebody who knows exactly what it is that they're doing. Right? You were just as much running that group as I was, right? You were the technical lead of it, and I was the poor son of a bitch who had to do the PDPs and deal with the rest of management.
We had some testy conversations, but it was all in part of the spirit of working for a big corporation.
Those testy. That's just
yeah.
You have hard things to decide.
Yeah, I can't. Yeah, I can't. I was going to ask you some questions about managers, but we don't need to go there. I was just like that. That's a high wire act, right? Like trying to manage your people and give them the right incentives, and then you've got a finite amount of money to spend on.
Yeah.
And then somebody else breathing down your neck, and all these groups breathing down your neck about, I want this tomorrow and yesterday and all of that. And
you have some crazy ass idealist in your group.
I'm sorry, Doug. Please pardon my sins.
And as a Catholic, I absolve you of all your sins if you were willing to pay me a couple $100.
Thank you. Forever thankful for that. I can enter the gates of heaven. Well, Doug, it's been a pleasure.
Likewise. But the only reason I ever agreed to come on is like every conversation that I've ever had with you has just been a shit ton of fun.
Likewise. I can't even describe to you how much fun I had. It's just fantastic. I love just chatting with you, picking your brain, and like I said, your honesty is refreshing to me. I love that. Like, we need more of that. We need South Park. We need Beavis Butthead. What's the other one we were talking about?
Ren and Stimpy.
Ren and Stimpy, and then we need Doug Koehler in our lives. Thanks, Doug.
Midwestern perspective.
Yes, thanks, Doug. I appreciate it.
So Zion is a park around 4,500 feet. And I was basing all my camping.
You mean the height of the... And this is in Colorado?
Utah.
Utah.
It's like an hour and a half northeast of Las Vegas.
Okay.
When you're in the valley at 4,000 feet, it's like 60, 70 degrees. Our second campsite is at 6,000 feet, and apparently it's all still under snow.
Oh, wow.
So
Okay.
I'm not sure we're going to stay on that one.
Okay. And you'll be staying in your own tents, like in the base camp?
Yeah, I mean, we have backpack and tent.
Okay.
That was the goal, is to
Okay.
get out far enough that you can drag everything out on your back.
You've done this a bunch of times, right?
Yeah.
Like, this is not... My mom, by the way, here's a quick anecdote. Speaking of...
Yes.
My mom used to be a mountain lover. Like every summer holiday that we kids got, she took off.
Okay.
Yes, we had a weird upbringing. She took off and went to all the important peaks in the Himalayas.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, every year she would be gone.
Well, this is back when
90s.
10 trillion people doing it.
Were they?
No, they weren't.
They weren't. Yeah, you're right.
It just seems like every time I look at any documentary on Everest now, it looks more
Oh,
crowded
God.
than Costco at Christmas
I
time.
know. It's quite the craze. And a lot of people dying, too.
Yeah. I just don't understand that.
Yeah, I was watching the Chris Rock special on Netflix yesterday. My buddy of mine said it's good. It's okay. He was saying we have a national addiction, and it's called attention.
Yes. I mean, that's the thing, right? Is that maybe 40 years ago, when you could count the number of people who'd been up Everest on one hand,
Yeah,
it's something.
it was like, I remember when I was in school, it was like 5 people. It was late 80s, early 90s. It was like you could name them on your...
Yeah, now it's just a continuous stream.
Yeah.
It's almost, they should build an escalator.
They should. Here's a selfie stick. Go.
Oh, God.
Have at it, man. Or woman.
It's one of the reasons I will never, ever go on a cruise as long as I live is we talked to some friends of ours who had been on this cruise recently, and they were showing us their pictures. And, here's the little pic of us in front of blah, blah, blah waterfall, right? And
You mean they got off the cruise and went somewhere? Okay.
they proceeded to show us the exact same picture from their other 5 couple friends who had all gotten off at the same stop and all stood in front of the same X that must have been painted on the concrete.
How did you react? What was your facial expression when you were watching the same picture 5 times?
Like, why don't you just do it in front of a green screen? It would mean as much. Just go eat the Applebee's, take the picture in front of the green screen. It's all the same thing.
My Bryce, our common friend, he was telling me there's this new saying in the young community: no pics means it didn't happen.
Yes.
Isn't that jaw-droppingly awful? Like,
So
what
sad,
the
isn't it?
fuck? Really? It's come down to this, that everything has to have proof nowadays, and then you're wanting that validation. You fucking want it.
And what's even sadder, right, is that 5 years from now, Dolly will be able to auto-generate that picture for you.
Who's Dolly?
It's the AI program that will create any image that you want from a word description.
Okay.
So Rice, Mac, standing in front of the Statue of Liberty.
Mount Everest.
Mount Everest. 3 seconds later, there's the photo.
Yeah. Yeah, we definitely, I don't know how we got off on this, but yeah, you're going to this place in Utah.
Rice, yeah.
Oh yeah, I was telling you about my mom. So she would go to all of these places, and guess what?
Yeah, that's crazy.
For an Indian woman, that was quite radical for back in the 90s.
Yeah, that's...
And she was radical regardless. She would ride her school. I mean, first, it's a very sexist society back in the 90s. I remember my dad making fun of her because she would, one of the few women who would ride her scooter, who would ride the car. And it was just like blatant sexism. Like on her face, they would mock her because, roll your eyes at woman driving a car. What else is next? You know, like,
She's probably a bad driver, though, wasn't she?
that's getting beeped out. You sound like my dad. You know what my dad would say? If somebody, Emily and me will laugh about this to this day. If somebody would cut him off, he would make it a point to peep at the driver and they're like, lady driver, okay. He had to confirm that, you know?
Of course. Of course.
Oh, God. So anyway, so she, what I was getting at, the point of my story of telling you why she was that there is a seminal moment in her life where the cult that she was part of, sorry mom, I'm calling it a cult, but the guru said to her, you should seek thrills within thyself and not seek dangerous, things in your life. And I mean, I have such strong feelings about that sort of doctrine that he imparted to her. Because it's like, she found whatever she found for herself. Like she went hiking, maybe brotherhood with a bunch of people, having fun, raising us kids was stressful, go out and do it. Whatever, fill in the blank. But don't bring that kind of like, I don't know, woo-woo stuff in there and guilt somebody to not do it. She gave it up, entirely gave it up.
I was going to say that's just kind of sad that you would give up something you love that much.
Our lives were very much dictated by the doctrines of the cult I was part of.
Yeah.
From 90, I think I've told you this story before, but 93 is when my mom got into it, 97 was when I got into it, and I got out in 2015. And, I mean, in the house, you would have the same, the tapes play. The guru would be giving sermons or whatever. Those tapes would play, his videos, his books were all over the place. He was a prolific writer, the guru, it was for all the dogmas and doctrines and stuff like that. He was actually a very kind of prolific writer, and we would spend our summers in the ashram, in the big center where they had these meditation gatherings and stuff. So it was a big part of our lives. And a lot of I have regrets, and I've talked about it in the past with other people, like regrets in the sense that we left a lot on the table without experiencing life for what it is, but because we saw it through the filter of the dogmas, we're kind of just leaving a lot on the table.
Your religions will do that.
Yeah, this took it to a whole new level though, because they knew how much to inject rationality into the conversation, just enough to So yeah, that's the.
Although, if you were doing that all the way up in 2015, you also had plenty of other influences on you, because you're not screaming, I'm a radical cult member.
Yeah, I didn't characterize myself as that.
Yeah.
I used to think this is a very secular organization that was meant to impart spiritual training, meditation, which is great. I still do it. I love it. I just kept that and then
Yeah.
offloaded everything
Also
else.
some baggage along with it, but
Yeah, there's always something
does.
packaged in there.
yeah.
It's like, why do you do that? I know why, because we spent thousands of rupees on DVDs, books.
There you go. There you go.
So you're anyway, coming back to Mount Zion. How long of a hike is this? I mean, how many days?
3 days. It'll probably just be 2 days now. Like I said, our last campsite was going to be
Oh,
snow,
okay.
and so I'm not really interested in camping on snow.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is a group of people, I'm guessing.
Like
Oh, that'll be nice.
and then we have 2 days in Vegas because that's where we fly out of.
Oh, nice. You plan to do fun things?
I think we're going to go to Hoover Dam, do the Hoover Dam tour.
Nice.
Walk up and down the strip a couple times, I'm sure.
There's a Beavis and Butthead episode with Hoover Dam in it. The name of the movie, it's a movie, Beavis and Butthead Do America.
Yes, I've heard the movie. I've not seen it.
It's fantastic. It is such an amazing satire and social commentary. They go on, literally do America. They basically, I think the Hoover Dam explodes at the end.
Ah, very good. Of course, you could do that now, and I don't think anything comes out of it because it's like down to
Really?
puddle.
Oh, really?
Oh, well, I mean, that's obviously not that bad, but that's the big controversy of the year is whether or not Hoover Dam will reach dead pool,
What's Deadpool mean?
which is that the water doesn't come up to the level that allows it to go through the hydroelectric portion.
Oh, that's the technical term?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I never knew that. Okay.
Drought so
That's
bad.
kind of sad.
It is.
And I've heard people talking about connecting the Great Lakes to the other parts of America and stuff. Like, and
Yeah, that's great.
about time we do something like that. Or
That's
desalinate.
Not happening anytime soon.
Yeah.
Can you imagine what that would take in terms of cooperation across states?
Cooperation amongst American people.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
It
would
would
be
turn into a partisan issue.
right off the bat.
Yes. We're not sending water to those Californians.
Uh,
Let
Yeah.
them stew in their own waste.
yeah. Nice. And so Vegas, couple days. Are you into like shows and stuff? Like you?
No.
No?
Well, I will say no just because we have done zero research into that at all at
Okay.
the stage of the game, which says that I'm not horribly interested in it.
I watched Penn and Teller one time when we were there, and it was definitely some $50 worth. Well worth it. One of the best magic shows I've ever seen.
And that I would probably sit through that as opposed to any sort of
Blue Man Group or something.
Blue Man Group would be fine. Like
Yeah.
musicians, I feel like everybody who ends up in Vegas is
Has-beens.
yes, yes. Honestly, I don't like live music anyway.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Well, just from the standpoint of if I'm going to go to, well, if I'm going to a bar, it's to talk to friends.
Yeah.
And anytime I've ever been to a concert, you just can't, the music is horrible because it's turned up too loud.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I like the vibe of,
I'm definitely a convert. I used to be like that. Like, hey, I just want to chill and have light music. But then my mother-in-law, being a musician that she is, took us to enough places over the years where I'm like, I love
well,
it.
that's probably a different vibe.
It is a different
I
vibe.
mean,
You're right.
If it's
Yeah.
folk type music, Right. That's not
bluegrass country. Yeah,
that's
yeah,
not screaming over the top of.
yeah. I got to tell you this, Doug. When bluegrass country and me are as far apart as anything else, as you can
As I
imagine.
say, I'm not listening to bluegrass country.
And let me tell you one thing about bluegrass country. Their whole family plays it. Gabe, my brother-in-law, Emily to some degree. Uh, anyway, they're a music family. They were playing in a barn in around the town of Knoxville for some charity fundraiser thing. And it was like a barn, and there was an intimate group of people who were performing. It was my mother-in-law, my brother-in-law, and then I think just the two of them. They were just booked for the 2 hours. They were going to play a couple of sets. I can't tell you, like, that music was so moving. I was sitting at a table, and I had to just go all the way to the back. I had a blanket, thank God, because I knew it was not a heated barn. It was in the cold winter. I brought the blanket. I was wailing, Doug. I was just like, this is like classic American soul music. I mean, it's got such lyrics that are incredible. I'm not a lyric kind of a guy, but there are certain lyrics that you can pick up on, as I can pick up on. Many people pay attention to lyrics. I'm all about the tune and the rhythm and beat and stuff. And I mean, I tell this to people, like, it was just one of the most moving experiences I ever had. I was just bawling, crying. It was just like, not tears of sadness, but it was tears of, like, I don't know, elation or kind of rapturous kind of feeling, kind of like you're in the presence of amazing music. And this is as American as it gets, because the themes were very American. And it's just...
Well, it means something different too, right? When you know the people are playing the music.
Not really. I hear other artists play, and Emily and me will watch something on YouTube, and I'll be wiping my tears off like this. Yes, I'm a PUSSY.
Oh,
we will play the song. We'll play this on YouTube. It's called Old Country Diner. There's this channel called Old Country Diner, and it's this guy who is trying to organize all these artists from, I think it's based out of Nashville. So all these country music artists, they come and play at his place. I'm sure you've heard of Whispering Bill. You've never heard of Whispering Bill?
Not.
Let me introduce it. I'll send you a link to his. I won't put you through.
But I will pretend that I will click on.
No. You have to watch this, please. Because we talked about satire. This is next level. This is yeah, you have to watch it to believe it. But anyway, we watched the show, and he brings on all these artists, and I'll watch some of them, and I'm like, man, it is so beautiful, profound. Lyrics are so profound, and, like, again, rapturous. I feel like there's a transcendence. You feel like good about the music, but it's also like on a level that's kind of sad, in a borderline of sad, but also hopeful. And I don't know. I like that kind of stuff. I'm a sucker for that. I'm a huge hip hop fan too. So, two edges of American music there.
Yeah, I'm probably just not very much of a music guy either.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, to it. Everybody's always making fun of me at the gym because I'm not wearing headphones.
Yeah. How do you not?
I'm perfectly fine.
Need the fuel.
Whatever blather is going on.
God.
In the gym.
If I don't have music, I flip out. Like, if my headphones are not on and stuff, I'm like, oh shit, how's the workout going to go today? If my Bluetooth headset has run out of battery, I forgot to charge, or something like that happened. Like, this is going to be rough, because I'm going to be listening to the weight falling and me just, huffing and puffing. And
no, I'm fine with that.
I need the
just fine.
I need the anger. I need the fuel. I need the
no.
intensity.
The only time I need that is when I'm running, because it's just mind-numbingly boring.
Yeah.
I need music for that.
And you run outside?
Yeah.
Mostly, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Not if I trail run. If I'm trail running, I'm okay.
Yeah.
Just run on the street. Worst thing in the world was doing Rock Island Trail for a while. Just up and down from Allen or whatever.
Yeah.
That is like the worst section ever. Because it's like just, I mean, it's a train track, right? It's straight.
Yeah.
For 30 miles.
It's pretty though. I like it. I go biking on it. I tell you, I've been on to biking these days. I might have mentioned it to you.
You do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Aaron got me into it.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah. So it's kind of the bug's bitten me, I guess.
I've been through stages where I've been more into that than others, but
yeah.
I did a lot when I was in Texas. Because lots of long
flatlands, yeah.
It's easy.
Yeah. It's nice.
I got toe clips for my bike.
What about toe clips?
Very first time I ever put them on, right? You should practice more, I guess.
Oh, did you hurt yourself?
No, I just pulled up to this stoplight in the middle of town and realized, like, just in that fraction of a second when you stop and you realize, oh, wait, my toes are still clipped.
You can't put your foot down.
Fell over, just whack, right there in the middle of the road, like 100 of people.
That is funny.
Perhaps the most embarrassing moment of my life.
Yeah. Yeah, Aaron was telling me about the toe clips. It's like, wow. People take it very seriously.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to do long distances, it's worth your while, but...
Yeah, they're a serious group of people. Clydesdale is what they call themselves. Aaron and his...
Yeah, Aaron is very, very serious.
Yeah, they go on... he'd take me to Kinsey, which is like on the way to... around the Perry Park and all that stuff. And they have some challenging trails out there. And he sets the bar high. So I'm like struggling when we go with him.
I run through Kinsey.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you take any trail? Or does someone...
through just about all of them.
Really?
Yeah.
What's the hardest, do you think?
Flying Monkeys is miserable to run.
Do you take breaks and walk, or you just kind of try to gun it all the way? Wow.
Yeah.
That is impressive.
Walk very often.
And you're alone, mostly.
Oh, yeah.
That's super impressive, Doug. Super impressive. And I'm guessing you don't foresee a time when you would ever stop doing this stuff.
Yeah, we'll see.
Really?
Well,
as long as you can.
Knees will go out or something.
Yeah, you think so? I mean, you're keeping it active and moving.
Well, I know, but I mean, nobody's running when they're 80.
You could be the guy. I've seen those pictures where 70, 80-year-old people look amazing. It's possible.
And again, that assumes that you stay healthy, right? I mean,
yeah.
People screw knees up all the time.
Yeah.
Right.
No, if nothing bad that was out of your control.
I will do this forever. I mean, slow down a bunch.
I don't know. I that's one of the things I always think about as I grow older is that, you know, you were raised to think that at some point there's an upper limit. Like at 60, you got to sort of hang it up or kind of wane down from there or whatever. So, you know, there's a societal brainwashing aspect of it. Like, it kind of slows down. And I don't buy that necessarily. Yes, your genetics matter. I get that. But it is your duty to take care of it till as long as you can.
Yeah.
It's the only thing you've got, this meat vehicle, right?
I remember going to some physical at some point in my early 50s and just asking the doc, you know, like, hey, how long should I plan on being able to do this? He was like, well, do it as long as you can.
Oh, nice. Good advice.
Yeah, it was like, I'll do it as long as I can.
Speaking of physicals, I have a quick story for you. You remember the caterpillar physical things.
Yeah.
Do you know there's a new rule when they do the, what is that called? The cough test.
Yeah.
You cup your balls and all
Yeah.
that stuff, right? Do you know there's a new rule that there has to be another person present?
No, I didn't realize that.
Can you believe it? Where things have gone?
So the other thing that's interesting is that one of the doctors that does
fucking believe it.
physicals
Yeah.
works out at Titan.
Okay.
Do you know who she is?
No, who is this person?
It's a woman. This is a blonde woman.
Hmm.
She's probably 60.
Oh, wow. Is she the taller lady?
No, she's relatively short.
Okay.
And I never thought anything of it until I went to my last physical. And right, I sit down, I was like, oh, you're the chick who's at Titan.
You fondle my balls.
She was like, I guess we'll just skip the prostate exam this year.
Oh, it's a prostate. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. God, it would be a woman doing it?
Yeah.
Wow, I thought that one was the hard line. You had to have a male.
No.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
That whole notion is just bizarro that they need somebody else in there.
Yeah. Yeah, so she came and said, I think she was an RN, registered nurse or somebody like that. She said by rule or law or something, we're supposed to be here while this happens. I'm like, great. You know, I'm sure somebody complained about this, some sexual abuse or something like that. And then...
Well, but Jesus Christ, all the things that you want, it's not another woman in the room. Why don't you just bring out 12 witnesses? They can all watch somebody put a finger up my ass. You're not recording, are
you? Yeah, it was it's embarrassing to say. I mean, I'm okay with one female doctor in the room. Just, okay, do what you need to do.
Yeah.
Let's just get it over
Get
with.
it over with.
Yeah. But then there's another person as an eyewitness. Yeah, let's make it more uncomfortable. It's great. It's great.
Yes. There's really not much more you could do to make it more uncomfortable, but more witnesses, that's it.
Oh, God.
Why don't you record it?
Does she try to hold back your I was gonna ask you, does she hold back a smile at the gym?
You would know.
Hey,
You're
Doug.
going the other way.
What a job, proctologist. The proctologist who does this?
That's that job.
That is a niche job.
Well, so I get colonoscopies every couple of years.
Okay.
Because family history of colon cancer.
Oh, well, good on you for doing that.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun.
I mean, as opposed to finding out late. Yeah. Those things, I mean, I'm like, oh, man.
Well, great drugs when you get a colonoscopy.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
This is good stuff, huh?
Yeah.
Glad they incentivize it.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
Got a garden hose up your ass, but at least you're happy about it.
Yeah, Emily, she works, now she works at the pain center. So she's a counselor for people who are trying to deal with pain. There's a new position they're trying to introduce where you've gone through chronic pain in your life, you're on medications, all of this stuff. And, there's the emotional, psychological angle to these things, right? Pain and all that. And so they're trying this new thing. WhatsApp is trying it. So they hired her for a brand new role they created for her to be that person. And she tells me, man, you won't believe how drugged up people are. I get to see these histories and stuff, and it's just like you might as well have these people just walking around with these, like, bottles of things just shooting up. They're so dependent on these things.
Yeah.
And
Opioids are really,
right.
there's a special place in hell for dealers pushing opioids.
Yeah.
Yeah, for the most part, drugs ought to just be legalized, right?
Yeah.
Marijuana, right? Jesus.
Yeah.
But opioids, I will carve out exception for that.
Yeah.
Right? It's just so damn
Addictive.
that
Yeah.
you don't want people starting on that.
Yeah. India struggles with the marijuana thing so bad because it's just like a huge underground market, and everybody does it, and it's just a hush hush thing. And and I keep trying to tell them, like, I keep trying to awaken them, like, hey, look at America, man. They finally got it. They get it. And
Yeah.
it's like enough already.
Biden hasn't finished that off yet.
Yeah.
He will if he gets a second term. If he's lucid enough at the end.
Lucid enough. Is he lucid now? Is he coherent? Oh gosh. No, I don't get the sense that, I mean, it has to be like a national, like an Arab Spring kind of event, I feel like, in America, to be federally legalize the whole thing, because it's, I don't know, it just seems like,
Well,
there's still a lot of people who look at it very stigmatically, in society.
yeah.
And then meanwhile, I have friends who will consume all sorts of things from Caterpillar. Let's just leave it at that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not worried about marijuana.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what? Go
Have
knock
at it.
yourself out.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the dirtiest little secret Peoria has, isn't it? Like, we've got all these stores.
It's legal.
Yeah. And look, we've not kind of fallen off the...
No, really nothing changed, did it?
Everybody's just going on about life, and we're doing okay. Oh, I don't know. Oddly enough, I remembered your question. What am I going to do? What am I going to do? What am I going to do? Yeah. Yeah, so this is one... I'm going to India in May.
Okay.
I'm going to take all my equipment with me, and I'm going to have a bunch of these in India, if I can, with people I find interesting. I want to really get... Like, here's one of the things I want to do, which is kind of atypical, I guess. I want to get into the slums, and I know a few people in the slums. Yeah. And this is one of the cohorts of people in India, or the group of people, 1.1 billion. Let me,
It's a lot of people.
Repeat that. 1.1 billion people who live in the lower income category of society. These are, I feel like I'm a broken record or something. I've made this point several times. Drivers, security guards, ATM security, servers, food delivery, blah, blah. You fill in the blank. People with almost virtually no social upward mobility in life. Most of the media space, the country's narrative, guess who's in control of that? It's the elites. It's the middle class and the elites.
Everything's fine.
Everything's fantastic. Don't worry about us. We're great. And here's the scandal angle to all of this. I feel it's one of the greatest scandals. It's not talked about enough. Is that people in our state, people of any state, we've got 26 official language, 25 plus official languages. There had been this kind of linguistic purity movement in a lot of these states, and I feel like I call bullshit on that. It was deliberately designed to marginalize a vast majority of our country so they can't read English media. So these people went from K through 12.
If they can't communicate with their
there you go.
neighbor, they can't really organize.
Exactly. K through 12, entirely in Kannada medium, Tamil medium, Hindi medium, Gujarati medium. isn't this the greatest scandal?
Oh, that's horrible.
And imagine if I ever make this point in public, you will be beheaded, right? Like,
Oh, it's one of my pet peeves. When I was listening to some NPR story about they were trying to teach children how to speak the Cherokee language
yeah,
because it's going extinct. They've
Yeah.
got this huge federal grant to do this now.
oh,
It's
okay,
like, to what end?
right,
Right? You're not going to save the language. You need millions of people speaking a language for it to be viable at all.
yeah. But the purists, the linguistic people will make the point that it's a good in and of itself. It doesn't have to scale. It doesn't have to be pragmatic.
What good is that?
It lends itself to the cultural fabric of our country.
Find something else about the culture that is
That's sustainable.
sustainable and focus your effort on that.
Yeah,
The language is just wasting people's
an
time.
artifact. Yeah, that's going to go extinct very quickly. Yeah. A language is as good as the speakers keep it alive, and then once that goes, it goes.
Yeah,
Um,
you're just setting all these people up for some expectation that,
Yeah.
well, we're going to save the language. No, you're not.
Yeah, and just think about it, right? Like, I grew up in my state where they made it in this school, especially because it was receiving government funding, they made it mandatory for the first language to be Kannada. So I grew up K through 12 reading, learning the absolute nuances, the deep down vocabulary of Kannada, which is a very ancient language. It has no utility in scientific applications or administrative language and
It's
stuff.
not like Latin where you might use it to decipher some other words.
But there is something to be said about language, right? Like, I mean, one thing I don't want to downplay is that language encodes your sensibilities, your cultural sensibilities, right?
I will just make the general statement that the world would be a much better place if we all spoke one language.
I
I will even take that as a matter of faith. That the world would be a much better place if we could all communicate with each other.
would agree with that, but there's also a place for local languages. In the sense that, like, okay, let me give you an example. Like, there are, I don't know, it's hard to find an example off the top of my head. I mean, there's several of these. Even if I took English, for example, if I said like a phrase like low-hanging fruit, okay? If I said something like that, it's the way the culture frames a particular problem.
But you can do that even if you're speaking English, right?
No,
You
I'm
have
just
some
saying.
colloquial phrases.
Well, I'm just saying, I'm making the point that English, because the culture encoded it into that phrase, there is a meaning behind it. It's not, low-hanging fruit means it's a loaded term.
Yeah.
Other languages don't have, other people who are speaking other languages don't have that, for example. Like Kannada doesn't have that kind of a phrase. And they would benefit from having this kind of a thought process in their language. Hear me out.
Yeah.
And vice versa, if they had something similar, English speakers would benefit from that, like backwards, right? So you have cultures lending themselves encoding themselves into language and giving you new ways of thinking about things.
I guess I never think of it as a new way of thinking about things. It's just another way of phrasing it.
No.
I bet you have the notion
No.
of low-hanging fruit in every language.
No, you're mistaken. You're mistaken there. I'll tell you, I'll give you a good example. Maybe this is not a great example, but it is sort of an illustrative example. One time my dad was making a big fuss about something, and I said, in English, I would say, what's the big fucking deal? I said that in Kannada, and my Telugu is the language I speak at home. And he got infuriated that I even thought of it that way. Because that's a very kind of elitist way of saying something. Like it's not acceptable, socially acceptable in our culture to sort of downplay those sort of things. Like, I don't know how to describe it. If I was interacting with my dad in English like that, and if I said, "What's the big deal?" and you would respond commensurately, you would say something like, "Okay, the reason why it's a big deal is X and Y and Z." Like, he took it as a massive put down, and it's not a massive put down. It's just like I'm describing what I think of it as. I don't know. I'm just hard to find a good example of that. Um, I feel like the language is kind of like a proxy for a lot of how culture works.
And I do agree that there are some local phrases that sort of just get at the nut of something very well.
Yeah.
But I will return to the idea that is worth far less than me
Going through the trouble.
being able to get out of my car and go talk to somebody in a slum of India without having a translator.
No, I agree with you that there has to be a universal code of like medium. Like, there has to be. I completely agree. That's the only way forward for us to self-actualize as a species.
Yeah.
We have to be able to communicate and talk. Like, Putin.
Languages only exist because it's an artifact. Well, having a world with 1,000 different languages is just an artifact of 1,000 years ago when we couldn't travel more than 30 feet.
Yeah, the fact that Putin or Xi Jinping, like, we can't really understand what his real feelings are, and through a translator, this is going to fucking draw out. Like, we're never going to understand what he truly is trying to say. Like Putin, like, he speaks in Russian, for example, or the Japanese prime minister, or whatever. And it's through a time and again, I keep hearing what the translator said is what they intended it to say. So yeah, I'm making your point.
And 90% of the people don't speak English, and so
they do. They do. I mean, a lot of these first world countries do, but like a guy like Putin is also trying to flex, right? Like, he's trying to flex in front of the world stage. Like, I can speak. You can go fuck yourselves.
I'd say the masses, right?
Yeah.
The Chinese masses don't speak English.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the percentage is in Russia, right? But it just means that the Russian media can feed them whatever they want.
Yeah. Good point. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, some of these things I feel like it's up to us foot soldiers and peasants, and like the Revolutionary War. Did you know about the Revolutionary War in America? It was organized and fought by average people.
Yeah.
Isn't that some mind-blowing?
That is, actually. I should know more about early U.S. history than I do.
Yeah. I thought that was fascinating. It was not like, this big army versus, it was just people organizing and saying, hey, we got to fix this shit.
It really is amazing that it stuck, considering we were going up against the British Empire.
Right.
Who, well, just goes back to Ukraine, right? It amazes. I just assumed that they were dog meat within a week.
Yeah.
And it really does give you some hope for humanity that they were able, and still are
holding out. Yeah. Although I keep reading, I don't know, I consume kinds of media where, so we're just taking taxpayer money and we're meddling with a part of the world we have no clue about. Like, these borders are extremely fluid, and they've always been fluid in Eastern Europe part of the world. And we, as Americans, being the idealist, exceptionalist crusaders that we are, like, we have a worldview that's not shared by.
Although I would say that Europe, for at least the last 50 years...
Western Europe.
Europe.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
We are really recoil against the notion that boundaries are fungible through war.
Right.
Particularly when you get, the autocratic tendencies of certain rulers to go back to their 90s We're going to make Russia great again.
Yeah, yeah. Does it bug you that we're sending all that money? I mean,
Well, I feel like you need to send the message to Russia that we're not going to tolerate expansion of their empire without end.
yeah. And why is it our place to do that? USA.
Is it the US's? No.
Yeah.
It's really
Team
EU's
America, World
responsibility.
Police.
Well, yes. Because to some extent
Yeah.
we are Team America, World Police.
Yeah.
Whether we like it or not.
Yeah, you.
Well, because I'm not sure. Well, presumably that's the UN's job,
Yeah.
right? It's just set rules for the globe as a whole.
Right. And they're the most dysfunctional organization that's out there.
Yes.
Yeah. It's a symbol of our relationship across the world. It's just like, yeah, we can't fucking unite on shit.
Yes. And so if you can't
Even if there was a asteroid we could see right there, like, fuck you.
Did you watch that movie?
Which one?
Don't Look Up.
Oh no, for some reason I avoided it.
Oh,
Is it worth watching?
that is the funniest damn movie on the planet.
Okay, I'll check it out.
You have to watch it.
Okay. I watched the first 10 minutes and I was like, man, Hollywood is in a decline, and this is one of those awful movies. I thought, like, and was it Meryl Streep?
It was Meryl
Okay,
Streep,
okay,
yeah.
okay. Yeah. I'll have to check it out. Okay, I'll definitely check it out now. By the way, I keep getting off in tangents because I'm interested in articulating what my vision for my career is.
Yes, okay.
I'm interested in telling you what.
You're going back to India, and we'll do this.
Yeah, we'll do that.
Okay.
But at the same time, I'm learning. I'm continuously practicing C++ and trying to get good at it. As I was mentioning to you earlier, or maybe one of the times past, was that I have a mentor in the ANA group that's helping me out. And so
it's not a dickhead.
Huh?
It's not a dickhead.
Oh, thank God.
Okay.
Yeah, that was a painful experience last when I was quitting CAT, but he's from Argo AI, the company that kind of dissolved, and Ford's I guess attempted autonomous driving. So he's of course a smart guy from Carnegie Mellon, and so he's mentoring me. There's another guy also mentoring me from Waymo, so it's great.
Okay.
I just have a. So I'm. It's very hazy at the moment. Like I feel like, and on one hand, I see the state of affairs in India, and I feel like I have to play a part in this. I'm with the idealistic mindset, and it's not just like I'm not trailblazing or anything like that. I've seen a lot of guys on YouTube or podcasts in general making a difference. They have a following talking about how they see the way things are playing out, and there's kind of a national hypnosis going on. There's the hysteria in the country. It like, to be very honest with you, it's like people analogize it to 1930s Germany. It is that bad. There is this kind of targeting, scapegoating of a particular group of people, and there's a lot of like, what is that, fervor, like this kind of nationalism, and there's somebody stoking the flames all the time in this WhatsApp. Have you've heard of WhatsApp? Yeah. It is the fucking cesspool. I mean, there's a derogatory thing people say, they call it the WhatsApp University for a reason. Graduates of the WhatsApp University, because there is definitely, like, people make this point that there's an IT cell in India that's just pumping these propaganda things out, and people who are new to social media and stuff, they don't realize,
that they're being fed something.
Yeah, everything that shows up on your computer and your phone screen has got to be legit. It's vetted, man. Come on.
Pink ladybugs.
Pink ladybugs?
I have a relative who keeps or was posting photos of these lovely pink ladybugs. It was just this photoshopped
Okay.
ladybug.
Oh.
Convinced that they were real. Convinced they're real. You couldn't tell her otherwise.
Really?
Yeah.
This is an adult person?
Yeah. It's like, just go out and Google pink ladybugs. That's all you have to do. That's all you gotta do is
I know. My father-in-law
takes all of 5 seconds to realize it's Photoshop.
my father-in-law was telling me he's a jokester, and he was saying something extremely this to this adult person, and she's like, really? She was like that gullible. Like it never occurred to her, like I could just literally right there verify. Okay, you're full of shit. Like, never crossed her mind. That's got to be scary for the rest of us. Like, oh shit, you're that easily manipulatable. Anyway, so yeah, WhatsApp University is a virus in our country, a thought virus. It's a thought virus spreading device.
Yeah,
and some of the people I've gotten on so far. I've talked about it a little bit. Like, I don't know. It's just like you're another. The way I view myself is it's just another foot soldier trying to do his or her part in the whole grand scheme of things. And if I'm having fun, I'm having interesting conversations with people. Man, hell yeah, I'll do it. And Emily's been gracious enough to take the burden a little bit. And of course, it's going to be a weird thing in my resume ultimately.
Yeah, whatever.
What'd you do, for this time? And yeah, I'll have an explanation for that. But if the barrier of entry for me is just 4 or 5 pieces of equipment and some editing software and this and that, like an account, like, okay, I'll get into the mix.
Anybody can do that.
Yeah, and I know a few people who can talk about this, and it's like it feels like at this point a war of attrition. Like it's the people who see the game the way it is have to crowd out the people who are just full of it. It comes down to
There are
that.
so many people who are just full of it.
There are. I agree with you. And
You are fighting the zombie horde, man.
no, but
Slow and stupid. You're fast, but there are a lot of them.
When I romanticize about the 90s in India, those were the same people, So we have the capacity to be that way, to coexist peacefully, normally. We have so much potential. I had some American engineers at CAT. I remember one time years ago. They'd be like, what is it with India? It's like, you guys have smart people. We just don't seem to just
get your shit together.
Yeah. What is it about that? And I'm like, I know. It's like we're happy to come to America, do whatever we want to do, but then when it comes to back home, it's just dysfunction 101. And it's like, okay, I think the way I see the world, my worldview, Doug, is that it really is up to the foot soldiers. Like I said, that's why I kind of analogized with the Revolutionary War, is that is such an inspiring tale of courage to me and idealism.
Yeah.
It's like, like carpenters and farmers and blacksmiths and fucking like people who are just day-to-day wage, they earned a wage and they earned a living, hand-to-mouth existence maybe in some cases. They wanted a country of their own. They determined their own destiny. Like, fuck yeah, we can do this. With the internet, yeah, the barrier of entry is even lower, to organize and stuff. And again, it makes it extremely hard because we can't speak our fucking language. I can fortunately speak 5, so I can, organize with the variety of people. In South India, I can, South Indian language, I can speak a few of them. And so I have that advantage. So like, let me not squander that, If I'm going down with a fight.